Chapter 1698. Within the immortal Qianbian Gate, there were many familiar faces of Qin Wentian. The Emperor of Qianbian, the Taishan Immortal King, the Saberlord of Death, Zi Qingxian and the others. Their gazes turned to Qin Wentian as their hearts were in chaos. After that, they felt a sense of relief. Finally, everything has ended. They didn't have to shoulder all of this anymore. The Emperor of Qianbian could actually understand Qin Wentian's feelings. He actually didn't want to start a war with the Heavenly Talisman realm, but he had no choice but to do so. He understood this supreme genius whom he had personally watched grow up too well. Careful. The countenances of the three Empyreans drastically changed as their consciousnesses fell into a trance. The scenes in their minds were no longer under their control, but their reactions were extremely fast. One of the Empyreans unleashed boundless runic light as a golden screen of light instantly appeared in the sky. The runic light intersected with each other, transforming into a shield of law source energy in front of the Empyrean. Qin Wentian's palms blasted downwards, slamming into the golden screen of light, shattering it apart. The three Empyreans managed to break free as they instantly retreated in three different directions. Boom! A dazzling bolt of lightning exploded in the space enveloped by the wings of the great rock. Terrifying bolts of lightning shot forth, akin to divine lightning from the 9 heavens, wanting to destroy everything. It was simply unimaginable what would happen if that strike landed on Qin Wentian. But at this moment, it was actually blocked by a sword, enveloping the boundless destructive might within. Qin Wentian was trapped in the gravitational space, unable to move at all. Yet another Empyrean spear shot over. Yet Qin Wentian only saw Qin Wentian waving his hands as an incomparably resplendent sword light flashed. A sword appeared in front of Qin Wentian, emitting a shrill screech as the sword's origin energy circulated around it. That sword suddenly transformed into a gigantic rock, spreading its wings wide open as it soared through the air. With a flap of its wings, the space in front of it was enveloped by the rock. Qin Wentian was known as the #1 in the world, because he had killed a transcendent in the Evergreen Kingdom. He was indeed terrifying. That Empyrean who faced off against Qin Wentian earlier turned as pale as paper. He instantly retreated and executed incantations, wanting to open a spatial passageway to the Heavenly Talisman realm to flee. 3 Empyreans and 2 of his companions were killed. He knew that if he didn't leave now, there would be no suspense at all. He would die for sure. Light and sword intent gushed forth frenziedly, gushing towards that Empyrean. That Empyrean had a layer of terrifying defensive source energy protecting him. But at this moment, a sharp whistling sound rang out as the demon sword pierced through space, piercing through the body of that Empyrean. For an Empyrean who had no will to fight and wanted to flee, his combat prowess would naturally be greatly reduced. Also, his back was facing Qin Wentian. How could he not die? Hence, there was no need to choose. Everything happened too quickly. In the time it takes for sparks to fly off a piece of flint, a Buddhist Dharma body manifested around Qin Wentian. Millions of arms extended out at the same time, manifesting a giant palm imprint that was akin to a divinity manifested, blasting towards that Empyrean who was trapped in the Samsara Eye technique. The experts of the immortal Qianbian Gate all stared in shock at the palm imprint slamming into that Empyrean from the Heavenly Talisman realm. A thunderous boom rang out as the heavens and earth trembled. Go! The eyes of the 3 of them gleamed with killing intent as they executed incantations. A moment later, an entrance appeared, directly opening up a pathway to the Heavenly Talisman realm. But at this moment, they only saw a spatial rift opening up as ancient vines shot over, binding over 10 immortal emperors before them. Behind them, Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu appeared. Qin Wentian directly commanded the experts of the Heavenly Talisman realm to open up a pathway to the immortal Qianbian Gate for them, bringing them here. 3 Empyreans were all killed, not a single one was left. The Empyrean guarding the Heavenly Talisman realm must have also died. The immortal Qianbian Gate, which originally had the strongest power, was instantly destroyed, becoming history in this chaotic world, leaving behind only a short period of glory. I initially didn't wish to do this, but since you all wanted to force me, I can only do this. Qin Wentian emotionlessly spoke. Hua Taishu didn't say anything. His eyes were terrifying as the eyes of Samsara appeared once more. In an instant, the three Empyreans felt themselves falling into a trap, unable to extricate themselves. With a piercing sound, the sword light slashed down. The great rock slashed through the air as fresh blood splattered. That Empyrean was shredded into nothingness bit by bit under the radiance of the great rock. At this moment, the hearts of countless people pounded madly. From the moment Hua Taishu and Qin Wentian appeared at the immortal Qianbian Gate, only a few breaths of time had passed. The battle erupted too quickly. The speed of their attacks was also extremely fast. In just an instant, an Empyrean was killed by Hua Taishu and Qin Wentian. In addition, this was a situation where three Empyreans were fighting against Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu. Hua Taishu was still holding on to the Empyrean in the middle, not allowing him to break free from his Samsara Eye technique. However, the Samsara Emperor Hua Taishu had actually also reached this level, and was actually so powerful. This caused the people of the immortal Qianbian Gate to feel extremely shocked. They couldn't help but to think that the ancient emperor guarding the heavenly talisman realm was most probably killed by these two. Under the situation where three Empyreans were ganging up on them, one of them was actually killed by them. Let alone the fact that the ancient emperor of the heavenly talisman realm was guarding the heavenly talisman realm alone. How could he not die when facing the combined attacks of two Empyreans? Hua Taishu's eyes of samsara stared at the Empyrean who was proficient in gravity. He was similarly enduring the terrifying gravity, and found it hard to move. However, his samsara eye technique caused his opponent to fall into a trap with a single glance. The two of them faced off against each other. He naturally understood that once he decided to act, he had to eliminate the threat immediately. If not, there would be endless repercussions in the future. At such a moment, he couldn't show any mercy. He also understood that although he still cared a little about the relationship between him and his sect, which was why he didn't kill anyone in the heavenly talisman realm other than Empyreans, his opponents were different. They viewed him as a traitor, and wanted to unify the immortal realms. If there was a chance to act, they would definitely kill him, and unify the immortal realms. At that time, the people around him would definitely be in deep trouble. However, the two Empyreans beside him weren't ordinary characters as well. One of them grabbed out through the air, causing Qin Wentian to feel an absolute gravitational force pressing down on him. His body froze and he couldn't move at all. The other Empyrean wielded a long spear, and was bathed in lightning. Lightning from the 9 heavenly layers enveloped him as the sky rumbled. The clear sky instantly transformed into a world of lightning. The long spear in his hand directly pierced towards Qin Wentian, transforming into a violet light that was compressed to the extreme. If this spear pierced into Qin Wentian's body, the explosive force would definitely be able to shatter Qin Wentian's body into dust. Bang! Qin Wentian stabbed out with his spear. The origin source shield was deflected and was devoured by the long spear. Qin Wentian directly leapt through space and appeared before the Empyrean. The coordination between the two of them was extremely exquisite, so fast that no one could react. Boom! A powerful gravitational force bore down on Qin Wentian, making it extremely difficult for him to take a single step forward. Spatial light flashed as his body directly vanished. And at the same time, Hua Taishu's eye of samsara radiated an even more terrifying light, causing the expression of the Empyrean who used the origin source of gravity to contort. Qin Wentian wanted to kill him. All of them were Empyreans, none of them were weak. The coordination between the two of them was also extremely exquisite. There was no need for them to put in any effort. Traitor, you are truly impudent. The three Empyreans stared at Qin Wentian as their voices were extremely cold. Emperor Qianbian also arrived. When he saw Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu rushing over, his eyes gleamed with a strange light. In the end, they still broke off their alliance. In truth, this was something he didn't want to see. But back then, the heavenly talisman realm used Junmengchen, and by Wuxia to threaten Qin Wentian. He already knew that Qin Wentian would definitely act against the heavenly talisman realm. Given Qin Wentian's personality, he would definitely not tolerate this. Even if the other party was from the heavenly talisman realm, they had already touched Qin Wentian's bottom line. Why must you force me? Killing intent flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. Since he wanted to act, he had no choice but to kill. If not, The threat of a character above the immortal emperor realm was too great. He might be able to handle it, but what about the Evergreen Kingdom? What about the Namhuang clan? What if the Namhuang clan decided to take revenge on Qing'er and Qingcheng? Kill the person in the middle first. Hua Taishu transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian. His eyes of samsara locked onto the person in the middle. It was none other than the expert who released the runic barrier. Boundless light radiated from that person. Yet he discovered that Hua Taishu's eyes had already transformed into a world of samsara. How could Qin Wentian allow him to leave so easily? Swishing sounds rang out as countless vines appeared. He stepped into the spatial gate, and after that, the vines directly wrapped around the body of the old man. Terrifying bolts of lightning and destruction erupted forth from the old man's body, shattering the vines completely. The three Empyreans from the immortal Qianbian Gate exuded terrifying auras. Qin Wentian actually dared to attack the heavenly talisman realm. What they didn't expect was that the person who ended the glory days of the immortal Qianbian Gate was once a disciple of the heavenly talisman realm. He was a core member of the immortal Qianbian Gate, and was known as Qin Wentian. After Qin Wentian killed an Empyrean, he faced off against the Empyrean who was proficient in lightning-type source energy. That Empyrean wielded a demon sword that resembled a great rock, spreading its wings and soaring up into the sky. When Qin Wentian infused his source energy into it, the demon sword soared through the sky as the shadow of a great rock manifested a sword intent, slamming into the boundless lightning bolts. His body fell downwards. At this instant, the gazes of everyone from the immortal Qianbian Gate were all focused on him, as their hearts pounded unceasingly. The demon sword hummed as a terrifying great rock manifested, radiating boundless sword intent as it shot towards that Empyrean. Qin Wentian advanced step by step, and with every step he took, the aura he exuded grew stronger. Numerous silhouettes soared up into the air. The experts from the immortal Qianbian Gate felt their hearts pounding when they saw this scene. Qin Wentian actually killed his way here, and he wasn't alone. The other person was none other than Hua Taishu, a supreme genius with the title of the Samsara Immortal Emperor. An Empyrean died. Chapter 1699. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over the crowd. After that, he stepped out and directly appeared in an ancient cave in the immortal Qianbian Gate. His sword intent flowed, shattering the cave as a prison appeared. Jun Mingchen, Bai Wuya and Qin Wentian were imprisoned there. Sword light flashed as a sharp sound rang out. The prison was broken apart as Qin Wentian landed on the ground. Senior brother Qin. Jun Mingchen's eyes gleamed. They already knew that Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu had come to save them. When they saw the two of them joining forces to kill three Empyreans, Jun Mingchen and the other two were extremely shocked. It was simply hard to imagine that their senior brother Qin was already so powerful. Not to mention, Hua Taishu was actually so powerful as well. Before this, they still felt that they were extremely powerful, but when compared to senior brother Qin and Hua Taishu, they felt that they were simply too weak. Bai Wuya smiled as he stared at Qin Wentian. Hundreds of years have passed, the seas have turned into mulberry fields. Bai Wuya had cultivated for so many years and had experienced many storms. But when he saw Qin Wentian, he still saw a miracle, causing his heart to be unable to calm down. He had watched Qin Wentian grow up. Back then, it was him who saw the Dongxing Heaven Emperor coming to his particle world to recruit a disciple. Back then, he saw Qin Wentian and recommended Qin Wentian to join the Heavenly Talisman realm. At that time, Qin Wentian was so weak, a mere celestial phenomenon ascendant, a junior with talent and potential. Bai Wuya had always taken care of Qin Wentian. Who would have thought that the current Qin Wentian was someone he could only look up to? Qin Wentian had actually joined forces with Hua Taishu to kill three Empyreans. This was simply unimaginable. These two were the disciples that the Dongxing Heaven Emperor had recruited back then in his particle world. If Eastern Sage could see the battle today, it was unknown how emotional he would be. He had missed out on two such characters, yet he actually accepted a descendant of an immortal king. Just by looking at his status, his judgment could be considered extremely rare since ancient times. What sort of characters were ancient emperors? It would be extremely rare for one to appear even after tens of thousands of years. Eastern sage actually met two of them at the same time, and even had the chance to accept them as his disciples. But with a single sentence from him, he missed out on this opportunity. Meng Chen, senior brother. Qin Wentian smiled when he saw the two of them. I've made you guys wait for so long, it's been tough on you. What are you talking about? Jun Mengchen's senior apprentice brother walked up and said, Back then when I walked this path, I thought that I would never have a chance to come out. Who would have thought that this world would belong to you guys? By Wuxia, your junior apprentice brother is even stronger than me. Jun Mengchen, you have to work hard. Jun Mengchen scratched his head and said with a smile, Of course I can't compare to senior brother, but I'm not weak either. Really? What about him? Bai Wuxia stared at Hua Taishu as he spoke. Jun Mengchen's expression turned black. How would I have known that I would encounter two such monsters? Jun Mengchen felt extremely depressed. His talent was outstanding and he had never suffered such a setback before. Upon seeing the expression on Jun Mengchen's face, everyone laughed, feeling extremely relaxed. Right now, after saving Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuxia, the matter with the Heavenly Talisman realm was concluded. As for the immortal Qianbian Gate, Qin Wentian didn't plan to touch it. After all, it was once his home and the Emperor Lord had shown him kindness. He couldn't be heartless. Turning his gaze over, Qin Wentian stared at the immortal Qianbian Gate. Right now, the immortal Qianbian Gate had changed greatly compared to the past. The Emperor Lord walked over and stood before Qin Wentian as he spoke. Wentian, I've let down Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuxia. Qin Wentian stared at the Emperor Lord Qianbian only to hear Bai Wuxia speaking. Emperor Lord, this matter has nothing to do with you. You basically don't have the authority to choose. If not, there would be one more person in this prison. Other than that, there's no meaning to it. Bai Wuxia was someone who could clearly differentiate between gratitude and grudges. There were experts from the Heavenly Talisman realm that descended from the upper worlds, existences above the immortal Emperor realm. Although the Emperor Lord Qianbian was the leader of the immortal sect in name, he basically had no authority to speak. Everything was decided by the people from the Heavenly Talisman realm. Back then, the Heavenly Talisman realm came into contact with the Emperor Lord Qianbian and supported him to establish the immortal Qianbian Gate, defeating the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. In truth, the Heavenly Talisman realm was already preparing to unify Azure Mystic. That's right. Emperor Lord, this matter has nothing to do with the immortal Qianbian Gate. Me and my two senior brothers made the decision, and we will bear the consequences ourselves. How can we implicate others? Senior brother Qin, let's end this matter here. Jun Mengchen persuaded to Qin Wentian. He was worried that Qin Wentian would vent his anger on the immortal Qianbian Gate because of him. I can understand. Qin Wentian nodded. He stared at the Emperor Lord Qianbian and asked, Emperor Lord, do you have any plans for the future? Me? The Emperor Lord Qianbian stared at the immortal sect he established with his own hands. His emotions were somewhat complicated. Although many Empyreans were killed by Qin Wentian, there were still many who followed the Empyreans of the Heavenly Talisman realm. Who wouldn't want fame and fortune? Many of them wanted to unify Azure Mystic and conquer the world. Among them, many were core characters of the Heavenly Talisman realm, and were stronger than him. Even if he killed these Empyreans, he still wouldn't be able to control the immortal Qianbian Gate. Right now, the immortal Qianbian Gate was already in the hands of the Heavenly Talisman realm. I'm preparing to roam the world and cultivate well. I will go to the city of ancient emperors, and see if I can raise my cultivation base a little. The Emperor Lord Qianbian smiled. He was prepared to give up everything here. Back then, he returned because of the conflict between him and the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. He wanted to prove himself. But now everything was over. He wanted to truly pursue the martial path. Qin Wentian nodded. He then glanced at the Taishan Immortal King, Tuoba Saint Sky and the others before his gaze landed on Zi Qingxian. He smiled and nodded to her as he transmitted his voice. Qingxian, if you are willing, you can come to the Evergreen Kingdom to cultivate. Everyone had their own ambitions. Qin Wentian wouldn't decide the path everyone would take in the future. After this matter concluded, he would naturally bring Jun Mengchen, and by Wuxia away. As for the others, they could all walk their own paths. They were all once friends. He naturally wouldn't vent his anger on his old friends in the immortal Qianbian Gate, just because of the will of the heavenly talisman realm. Emperor Lord, this is a messaging crystal. If you have any needs in the future, you can contact me directly. Qin Wentian exchanged immortal senses with the Emperor Lord Qianbian, leaving behind a messaging crystal for him. No matter what choice the Emperor Lord Qianbian made, he couldn't deny the kindness he had shown him in the past. If the Emperor Lord Qianbian encountered any difficulties, he would definitely help him. Naturally, this was also a warning to the people of the heavenly talisman realm, not to act against the Emperor Lord Qianbian. He believed that with his attitude, no one would dare to do so. I'm filled with anticipation for you to become the overlord of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. The Thousand Transformations Emperor Lord laughed as he stared at Qin Wentian. The young man in the past soared up into the heavens with a single step, eventually walking towards the peak of the world, becoming an ancient emperor-level character, leaving his name in history. I will. Qin Wentian smiled. Let's go. After speaking, he brought Jun Mingchen, Bai Wuya and the others away, directly going through the spatial passageway to the heavenly talisman realm. It would be faster this way. Not long after, they returned to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Staring at the resplendent palace that was rebuilt, Jun Mingchen felt many emotions in his heart, as though it was a lifetime ago. Qin Wentian, Jun Mingchen, I'm leaving first. Hua Taishu stared at Qin Wentian and the others as he spoke. Qin Wentian started. You are leaving just like that? The matters in Azure Mystic have been concluded. I will head to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. I believe that in the future, we will still have the chance to meet again. Hua Taishu stared at Qin Wentian. You are always like this. Qin Wentian smiled. Alright, go ahead then. Let's meet again in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. I will wait for you at the peak of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. A rare smile appeared on Hua Taishu's face. After that, he turned and departed, exuding an incomparable carefreeness. That calm tone of his was filled with immense confidence. If it was someone else who said this, maybe Qin Wentian would feel that the other party was arrogant. But when these words came from Hua Taishu, he actually felt that this was how it should be. The peak of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? Qin Wentian stared at Hua Taishu's departing figure as he smiled. I'm filled with anticipation. This fellow is getting more and more mysterious. Jun Mingchen mumbled. He naturally felt gratitude towards Hua Taishu in his heart. That fellow didn't like to express himself, but he was very principled when doing things. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart. No one knew what he would do. But because of their friendship, he didn't hesitate to take the initiative to invite Qin Wentian to rescue Qin Wentian. After saving Qin Wentian, he directly left, not exchanging more than a few words. Yeah. Qin Wentian nodded. Senior brother, how is the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms now? I truly want to go there and take a look. Jun Mingchen excitedly spoke. Very strong. Right now, I'm in the lifelong realm of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. The lifelong realm lord has a total of 9 world palace lords under him, and I'm the world palace lord of one of them. Just the strength of my world palace alone isn't any weaker compared to the local hegemonic powers of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. You can very well imagine how strong a world is. Right now, the seal on Azure Mystic has loosened, but even so, only world palace lords can descend to the lower realms. World overlords aren't allowed to do so, or I wonder what the consequences would be. Qin Wentian slowly spoke. Jun Mingchen had an intense look of yearning on his face. Seems like there's no meaning in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms anymore. I'm preparing to follow senior brother to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Why are you still staying here to unify Azure Mystic? There's no meaning to it. Jun Mingchen was still as carefree in front of Qin Wentian, saying whatever he wanted to say. This Azure Mystic is our home after all. There are too many things we are worried about. I hope that before I leave, I can unify Azure Mystic and deter the people of the upper world, returning Azure Mystic to an era of peace. Qin Wentian slowly spoke. As for what the future of Azure Mystic would be like after I leave, even if I want to, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to control it. Just like what he said in the past, he wanted to unify Azure Mystic. However, it wasn't for fame and fortune. At his level, fame and fortune were already meaningless to him. The incident at the Immortal Champion Gate soon circulated around the world. After all, this matter involved ancient Emperor-level characters, and the #1 expert of Azure Mystic, the Heaven Empyrean, participated in it. How could this not cause a commotion? 4 ancient Emperor-level characters were killed in a single day. The Heaven Empyrean and the Samsara Immortal Emperor slaughtered their way into the Heavenly Talisman Realm and the Immortal Champion Gate, killing Empyreans and saving Jun Mingchen and Bai Wuya. For a period of time, the entire world trembled. Other than the current #1 expert of Azure Mystic, the name of Hua Taishu also circulated around the world. The Samsara Immortal Emperor shocked the world with a single feat. Everyone in the world knew of him, and he became a character equal to the Heaven Empyrean. Chapter 1700. The Empyreans of the Heavenly Talisman Realm were all killed. The Immortal Champion Gate that was under their control instantly became a peak power. Without Empyreans, it was impossible for them to have a chance to rule the Azure Mystic Immortal. Those peak powers that chose to submit to the Immortal Champion Gate all started to regret their decision. The 4 Empyreans were directly killed. The Immortal Champion Gate was knocked down from its divine pedestal. The tripartite balance of power didn't last long before it was destroyed. Right now, there were 2 supreme powers vying for supremacy in Azure Mystic, but the people of the Immortal Realms were already discussing when the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian would unify Azure Mystic. The vast majority of people felt that it wouldn't be long before the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian would unify Azure Mystic. He would destroy the Jiang clan and become the sole hegemon under the heavens. Several days later, news circulated out that the Immortal Champion Gate had disintegrated. A power that was strong enough to rule the Azure Mystic Immortal was knocked down from its divine pedestal by Qin Wentian, becoming history. They also understood that in a situation where they didn't have Empyreans, let alone Qin Wentian, even if Qin Wentian didn't participate, they wouldn't be able to stand against the subordinates of Qin Wentian. After the Immortal Champion Gate disintegrated, all the experts dispersed. As for those powers that submitted to the Immortal Champion Gate, they came to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, wanting to submit to Qin Wentian. However, they were all rejected by Qin Wentian. Although he wanted to give Qin Xian a peaceful environment, he was not a good person. When he was fighting with the Immortal Champion Gate, both parties were on opposite sides. Since they chose to stand on the other side, there was no reason for them to surrender after failing. He would not be cruel enough to massacre these forces, but in the future, these forces were destined to not be able to stand on the top of Qin Xian. This was undeniable. If he were to take over Qin Xian would be controlled by these forces that followed him. After the Immortal Champion Gate, next would be the Jiang clan. That day in the Evergreen Kingdom, Qin Wentian had said that he wanted to kill Jiang Zihua, but the Jiang clan had rejected him. Now that the transcendence of the Immortal Champion Gate had been annihilated and the Immortal Sect had disintegrated, would Qin Wentian spare the Jiang clan? The experts of the Immortal Realms were all waiting for the battle that would decide the future master of Azure Mystic to erupt. Today, Qin Wentian sent a messenger to the Jiang clan, telling them to hand over Jiang Zihua. At the same time, the Jiang clan was not to interfere in the matters of Azure Mystic. The Jiang clan naturally rejected, reprimanding Qin Wentian for being too arrogant. Hence, the relationship between both parties was extremely tense and a battle could erupt at any moment. If the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian and the Samsara Emperor, Hua Taishu, killed their way into the Jiang clan, would the 3 ancient emperors of the Jiang clan be able to withstand them? Today, the 3 Empyreans of the Jiang clan challenged the Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian to a battle. The letter of challenge was sent to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Qin Wentian accepted it and set off alone, heading to the location of the battle. At the border of the eastern and southern regions, there was a sea region with many islands in it. At this moment, on one of the islands, 2 experts stood there. Their eyes were closed as faint light revolved around them. Finally, one of them opened his eyes and spoke. He's here. He's alone. I don't see Hua Taishu. Could he be hiding in the shadows? The other person spoke. After that, he took out a messaging crystal and sent out a strand of immortal sense. If that's the case, how can he hide from us? That person spoke confidently. The two of them nodded, and an instant later, Qin Wentian soared through the air and appeared in the airspace above them. Why are there only two of you here? Qin Wentian stood in the air, staring at the two experts from the Jiang clan. The person on the left spoke. Qin Wentian, your actions in Azure Mystic are too brazen. Even if you are the #1 expert of Azure Mystic, you won't be able to escape your fate of dying prematurely. The Heavenly Talisman realm has already disintegrated. Where do you guys get your confidence from? Qin Wentian asked. The Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord is merely the overlord of a world. How can he be compared to the supreme ancient immortal realms that has an inheritance of countless years? This is only because you still have a chance to show off your might in the lower world. If this is in the supreme ancient immortal realms, my Jiang clan can crush you to death as easily as crushing an ant. Qin Wentian, let me give you one last piece of advice. Don't be an ant trying to shake a tree. There are some people you can't afford to antagonize. The expert from the Jiang clan spoke. I don't know about the matters in the supreme ancient immortal realms, but in this Azure Mystic, I can still afford to antagonize your Jiang clan. Qin Wentian spoke. A terrifying aura permeated the air. He couldn't be bothered to waste time talking nonsense. Since the Jiang clan challenged him, he could only do so. The eyes of the two Empyreans from the Jiang clan turned golden, gleaming with sharpness. Their bodies were bathed in resplendent golden Buddhic light, as well as a layer of silver armor. Gold and silver intertwined together, exuding a heroic aura. Immobilize. One of them coldly snorted. This was a secret art of the Buddhist path, the immobilize art. Qin Wentian only felt terrifying streams of Buddhic origin energy transforming into ancient runes that directly imprinted themselves on his body, causing his body to freeze momentarily. He was actually immobilized. The other Empyrean stepped out, directly traversing through space, and appeared before Qin Wentian. His arm directly slashed out towards Qin Wentian. His arm seemed to transform into an invincible divine weapon, capable of slicing through space. When it pierced into Qin Wentian, it directly penetrated through Qin Wentian's body, slowly penetrating into Qin Wentian's body. The confidence of the two of them was also based on their combat prowess. Under their joint attack, ordinary Empyreans would surely be caught off guard and killed in a single strike. However, how could Qin Wentian be an ordinary Empyrean? Just as his opponent's arm slashed into Qin Wentian's body, another body appeared, separating from his original body. Two clones of Qin Wentian actually appeared there, akin to a cicada shedding its carapace. In an instant, one of the clones was destroyed. As for Qin Wentian, his countenance was filled with shock. The Empyrean of the Jiang clan was truly extraordinary. Fortunately, he had also cultivated many techniques. In the air, a terrifying spatial storm abruptly manifested as countless spatial gates appeared. The sky above the sea region was incomparably resplendent. That Empyrean of the Jiang clan formed a mudra with both hands. The fixed body technique of Buddhism was akin to the power of the Great Tao. Accompanied by the descent of the Buddha's voice, the fixed body technique shot out from the air, landing on the spatial gates one after another, intending to fix them in place. The other Empyrean transformed into a golden ancient Buddha, transforming into a Dharma body. Boundless Buddha's light shot out and his body moved like lightning, using both his hands and feet. Every attack he made was akin to a thunderbolt, causing the spatial gates to collapse one after another. His body directly pursued the silhouette of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's body kept on evading. The mysterious Jiang clan was proficient in the power of Buddhism. Many an Azure mystic guessed that they were a branch of Buddhism. Back then, Jiang Zihua had even defeated Bujia's teacher. Although their Buddhist techniques were slightly unorthodox, there was no doubt that their combat prowess was extremely powerful. Qin Wentian, you won't be able to escape from my palms. The Empyrean who used the fixed body technique spoke. Similarly, a powerful Dharma body appeared on his body. In that instant, The source energy of heaven and earth seemed to transform into numerous ancient Buddhas, descending from the sky. In fact, within the sea region, there were also incomparably huge Dharma bodies of Buddhism appearing. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out. The sea region trembled. The mountains and rivers roared. The vast space seemed to be sealed within this Buddhist technique. Qin Wentian dodged and retreated, only to see a thunderous rumbling sound. Incomparably huge Dharma bodies appeared in the void and the sea region, directly severing the space and spitting out the fixed body talismans, wanting to lock Qin Wentian in the void. Such might was too terrifying, enough to shake the heavens. There were people in the various islands in the sea region who were cultivating in seclusion, but they were awakened by the battle. When they saw the innumerable Dharma bodies of Buddhism appearing in the sky and the sea region, all of them felt that it was inconceivable and directly stood there. Such continuous attacks caused even Qin Wentian to feel troubled. When he dodged again, there was actually an extremely powerful palm that blasted towards him. Judging by the direction of the wind, it was as though the palm could predict where he would appear in advance. Clearly, defense was not the top priority. At this moment, Qin Wentian's body turned pitch black. Devil clouds seethed unceasingly as a terrifying devil king appeared, resembling a supreme devil lord. When the fixed body talisman attacked again, Qin Wentian's black eyes gleamed with a fearsome devil light. The boundless devil might cause the heavens and earth to tremble, directly corroding the Buddhic light. Return. With a cold shout, an incomparably gigantic devil lord appeared in the air, standing proudly in the air. The devil lord's head was above the sky, and his feet were on the sea region. As Qin Wentian coldly shouted, the fixed body talisman transformed into a devil talisman, directly turning around and shooting towards the two experts from the Jiang clan. The myriad devil sovereign's inheritance allowed Qin Wentian to ignore the devil attacks of experts on the same level as him after he broke through to the immortal king realm. He could even reverse the attacks of those on the same level as him. Now he has already broken through to the Empyrean realm, and comprehended the source origins of devil laws. Only then could he truly unleash the power of this inheritance. The myriad devil sovereign's dominion art. Devil dominion is boundless, heaven and earth are lawless, all laws are used by me. The Buddhic Dharma bodies summoned by the two experts from the Jiang clan were also corroded by the devil might. The pitch-black light covered the golden Buddhic light, as two completely different types of energy struggled against each other. But in the end, the Buddhic Dharma bodies transformed into devil king bodies. From this, one could see how tyrannical the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign was. If one cultivated this art to the extreme, it was unknown how terrifying it would be. It was unknown if one could reach the state where if one became a devil, there would be no Buddhas under the heavens. Just when Qin Wentian was fighting against the two experts from the Jiang clan, in the royal palace of the evergreen immortal empire, two terrifying auras suddenly gushed forth. In the air, two silhouettes could be seen. One of them was none other than the other Empyrean from the Jiang clan. As for the other Empyrean, no one had seen him before, but his aura was extremely terrifying. He was none other than an Empyrean from the Ying clan from the upper world, who came here for revenge. His eyes flashed with a frenzied killing intent. Qin Wentian destroyed the Ying clan. Today, he wanted Qin Wentian to pay the debt of blood with blood, annihilating the Evergreen Kingdom. Chapter 1701. Two supreme auras bore down on the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, causing countless people to be shocked. They inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The expressions of Chongqing the Great and the others drastically changed. After that, they took out their messaging crystals and sent their immortal sense in, sending a message to Qin Wentian. The two supreme experts in the air all had malevolent smiles on their faces when they saw this. Sending a message? Was there enough time? Brothering, Qin Wentian has a grudge against you for having his entire clan annihilated. I won't fight with you any longer. Please let's go. An expert from the Jiang clan spoke. The Ying clan's Empyrean nodded. He was ordered to come to Azure Mystic, but before he even arrived, his entire clan was annihilated. This was simply a great humiliation. After that, he heard that Qin Wentian had slain Empyreans, and was the #1 expert under the heavens. Hence, he decided to kill his way here. Back then, he was among the Empyreans of the Evergreen Kingdom, but he didn't reveal his identity. It wasn't until this time when the Jiang clan issued a challenge to Qin Wentian did he come here with another Empyrean from the Jiang clan. Since this is the case, I won't be polite then. The voice of the Ying clan's Empyrean flickered with cold killing intent. His gaze was filled with disdain as he stared at the people below. Please, in the royal palace, beauties are as common as the clouds. Some of them are exceedingly beautiful. Brothering, you have to be more lenient when you act. The Empyrean from the Jiang clan laughed loudly. The immortal sense of the Ying clan's Empyrean enveloped the entire royal palace, and he naturally saw many beauties. When he heard the words of the Jiang clan's Empyrean, his heart trembled slightly. Such a method of revenge wasn't too bad after all. Numerous thunderous roars rang out as demonic qi engulfed the area. Numerous terrifying demonic dragons appeared, circling the skies. Each of these dragons was at least 10 million meters long, and they hovered in the air, blotting out the sun. In just an instant, the sky turned dark. The area around the Evergreen Kingdom Palace seemed to have turned into an apocalyptic scene. The malevolent faces of the demonic dragons all flickered with a cold killing intent. Rumble, the sky trembled as the demonic dragons frenziedly revolved in the air. As long as the Empyrean from the Ying clan gave the command, they would be able to kill their way down. The experts of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace all turned pale. Before this pressure, they only felt that they were extremely tiny and insignificant, as though they were a lone sail in the face of an apocalyptic storm. I've been fooled. GD stood in the crowd. Her expression was extremely unsightly. Qin Wentian wasn't here. Who would be able to deal with an ancient emperor? Although they had an army of immortal emperors guarding this place, they would discover that immortal emperors and ancient emperors weren't on the same level. Their advantage in numbers couldn't be made up for. Master, there's no way he doesn't have a backup plan. Qing Er's white hair fluttered in the wind as she calmly looked at the scene in the void. She trusted Qin Wentian so much. She naturally believed in him. After Qin Wentian returned, he spent all his time with them, bringing them along wherever he went, even if it was to the myriad devil islands. Such feelings others might not be able to understand, but both she and Mo Qingqing understood. Since Qin Wentian told them to stay in the royal palace, it was impossible for him to not be on guard against any sneak attacks. Such intense confidence, there was no other reason, it was because of their feelings. And just as the sound of Qing Er's voice faded, with the Emperor Palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire as the center, the earth suddenly lit up as resplendent runic light flashed. Tens of thousands of mysterious runes frenziedly circulated around every corner of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, as a heart-palpitating aura gushed forth. At the center of the Imperial Palace, an illusory and ancient diagram appeared. MHM. The Empyrean from the Ying clan and the Empyrean from the Jiang clan had looks of bewilderment on their faces. After that, they couldn't help but exclaim in shock. Formation. The rebuilt Evergreen Kingdom Palace actually had a supreme grand formation inscribed within. Origin source energy gushed forth from it, extremely powerful. Their immortal senses searched for the origin source of the formation. After that, their gazes landed on an ordinary-looking figure. This figure was clad in black robes and had a mask on. It was unknown when he appeared here, but his aura seemed to have been concealed. But at this moment, his aura was gradually being released. The grand formation seemed to be under his control. Empyrean realm. The countenances of the two of them changed. Also, this wasn't the Samsara Emperor Hua Taishu from the rumors. It was another Empyrean instead. Other than Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu, there was another Empyrean hidden in the Evergreen Kingdom. This caused them to feel a sense of unease. The expert from the Ying clan pointed his finger downwards. Instantly, the sky rumbled as dragon roars filled the air. The roar of the demonic dragon caused the earth to shatter as it shot downwards. Below, the black-robed figure slowly soared up into the air, as the terrifying grand formation manifested. Numerous ancient sealing gates appeared, as though they came from the primordial era. When the demonic dragon slammed into the sealing gates, it was directly sucked into them. That incomparably gigantic body of the demonic dragon actually shrank unceasingly before vanishing completely. The entire world had been sealed. If one were to look down from the sky, they would be able to see that the entire sky was actually a gigantic door. Boundless sealing light shot out from within, heading straight for the experts of the Ying clan and the Jiang clan. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." A voice rang out from the mouth of the black-robed expert. Since he knew that there would be Empyreans from the Ying clan coming to Azure Mystic, how could he not be on guard? Just like what Qing'er had thought, there was nothing that could compare to how much he cared for Qing'er and Mo Qingcheng. Now that he has returned to Azure Mystic, he wouldn't allow them to be in danger again. Even if he had no other choice, he would still stand in front of them. The immortal senses of the experts from the Ying clan and Jiang clan swept out in all directions. They also felt that something was wrong. This entire space was actually a sealed space. Numerous sealing gates gushed towards them, gleaming with boundless sealing light. The two of them radiated a terrifying aura, unleashing a supremely powerful force that broke through the sealing gate. However, by borrowing the power of the formation, the sealing gate was limitless and the sealing light was limitless as well. The two of them only felt the amount of heavenly energy they could use growing weaker and weaker as their countenances turned extremely unsightly to behold. The Empyrean from the Jiang clan grabbed out with his hands towards the imperial palace of the evergreen immortal empire, wanting to capture the hostage. However, his attack landed on the sealing gates and he was trapped within. There was no way for him to break through. This GD, Chongqing the Great, and the others didn't expect Qin Wentian to have a backup plan. Back then when Qin Wentian was searching for skilled craftsmen to rebuild the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, they actually didn't know that there was a formation that was constructed here. Not only that, this formation was extremely powerful. From the looks of it, the two Empyreans were already trapped within, unable to extricate themselves. Most probably, the situation would only get more and more disadvantageous for them as time passed. "What's the situation?" "Qin Wentian is very strong. We are in danger." At this moment, a voice rang out in the mind of the Empyrean from the Jiang clan. This voice belonged to the two people who challenged Qin Wentian. His countenance instantly turned pale. Were the two sides of the battlefield in such a dangerous situation? He dodged unceasingly, taking out his messaging crystal and sending a strand of immortal sense into it. After that, he retracted his state of mind and continued the battle. This was also because the black-robed figure below didn't unleash any oppressive attacks. Only then could he find the time to reply. At this moment, in another battlefield, the entire sea region was in a frenzy. The seawater flowed in reverse as devil might filled the sky, unexcelled in the world. Numerous ancient devil kings appeared, slaughtering everything in their path. Qin Wentian transformed into a devil sovereign. He actually used his devil body to unleash Buddhist arts and techniques, as well as many unfathomable innate techniques. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian vanished from his original location. His gigantic body directly appeared in the airspace above an Empyrean from the Jiang clan. With a cracking sound, the Buddha body of the Jiang clan's Empyrean shattered as numerous devil arms grabbed downwards. The Empyrean's hands frenziedly formed seals as his source energy transformed into a myriad of immobilizing talismans. However, the devil might corroded everything as the runic inscriptions were reversed and flew towards the Empyrean. At this instant, the body of the Empyrean from the Jiang clan was completely immobilized. The devil arms of Qin Wentian descended, directly binding him. "What's the result of your voice transmission?" Qin Wentian, who resembled a supreme devil lord, stared at him with incomparably black eyes as he asked. The expression of that Empyrean from the Jiang clan turned extremely ugly to behold. He struggled madly as he asked, "Why are there other Empyreans?" In addition, he was able to hide from the detection of his immortal senses. "Do you know what sealing energy is?" Qin Wentian spoke. Di Tian had sealed all his auras. Naturally, no one would be able to sense it. He had also sealed his own aura. The formation was the same as well. "I will hand Jiang Zihua over to you." The Empyrean from the Jiang clan spoke. "Before this, if you wanted to compromise, I would have believed your sincerity. But since the battle has already started, There's no longer a need to set conditions. You can go. Qin Wentian spoke, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying light. A devil saber slashed out. The other Empyrean couldn't bear to watch. His body directly vanished from the air, as though he was using a greater teleportation technique, wanting to leave. He knew that this battle was extremely miserable. Back then when Qin Wentian killed the Empyrean, he was actually still holding back. Boom! The devilish figure vanished from his location, directly chasing after the Empyrean. A devilish palm imprint blotted out the sky, blocking out the sun. There was simply no way to evade. It directly slammed down towards the Empyrean. With a thunderous boom, that Empyrean was enveloped by the devilish palm imprint, and was blasted into the sea region. However, the palm imprint followed after him, causing the seawater in the sea region to churn frenziedly as the waves roared. That Empyrean from the Jiang clan had no way to evade. The spectators from afar felt their legs trembling as they stared fixedly at the battlefield. Was this really Wuxia's battle? An ancient emperor could actually be so powerful to such an extent. Most probably, the entire sea region was about to vanish. After Qin Wentian killed his Empyrean, his eyes gleamed with a terrifying devilish light. It was about time for him to reel in the net. His silhouette flashed, radiating a towering devil might as he soared into the air. Everywhere he passed by, countless experts trembled, wanting to prostrate themselves on the ground and worship him. Was this the might of the Heaven Empyrean Devil Lord? Who in the world could contend against him? He is heading towards the southern regions of the immortal realms, not to the eastern regions. Someone's heart trembled. He is heading to the Jiang clan. At this instant, those who saw Qin Wentian leaving understood that the Jiang clan was finished. Chapter 1702. Di Tian waved his hand as his silhouette flashed, vanishing from this place. His departure caused many people in the Evergreen Kingdom to feel how mysterious he was. As for the experts from the Lifefire Palace, they all sighed silently. They didn't expect the Vice Palace Lord to come as well. He should have been summoned by the Lifefire Empyrean. The Lifefire Empyrean truly viewed this place with great importance. Unknowingly, the Lifefire Empyrean had already set up a supreme grand formation here. After Qin Wentian killed the Empyrean from the Jiang clan, he sped towards the Jiang clan. The majestic ancient palace of the Jiang clan was already empty. Only a few minor characters remained. Qin Wentian discovered that the Jiang clan leader, Jiang Zihua, Jiang Ziyu and the others, as well as those powerful immortal emperors, had all vanished without a trace. Clearly, they had long been prepared for this. Back then if it wasn't for junior brother Qin, we wouldn't have today. We naturally have to attend his wedding. The woman smiled warmly, recalling the scenes from many years ago. At that time, the junior brother of her husband was still a disciple of the immortal Qianbian Gate. Before the Heaven Empyrean left Azure Mystic, most probably, no one would be able to change the outcome of the unification of the immortal realms. Haha, I'm naturally happy. The young man named Ouyang laughed loudly. The smile on his face was extremely radiant. Jiang Ting, who was beside him, held his hand. The two of them exchanged a smile, understanding each other's thoughts. Their good brother not only became the Heaven Empyrean and unified the immortal realms, he even wanted to hold a grand wedding with a princess of the Evergreen Kingdom. How could they not be happy? In a small city in the eastern regions of the immortal realms, there was a simple courtyard. Today, the owner of the courtyard was dressed neatly. His white robes were spotless and there was a smile on his face. Now, the beautiful woman smiled. There were even people who joked that the Heaven Empyrean unified the immortal realms. It couldn't be because he wanted to hold a grand wedding ceremony, right? He conquered the entire empire, all for the sake of winning a smile from a beauty. When this news circulated out, the entire world was shocked. For any sect, the art of cultivation was a secret that could not be passed on. Only the core disciples could inherit and cultivate it. However, Qin Wentian wanted these forces to make a copy of it and send it to the Evergreen Kingdom. This meant that from now on, those forces would no longer be the only ones. As long as the Sky Emperor wanted to, he could replace them at any time. However, news spread that the celestial Varch had invited all the forces in the world to gather for a banquet. It was not for the sake of the empire, but for the sake of a beauty. Behind her, a figure appeared silently. Seeing her in a daze, he asked, "Sienna, what's wrong?" "I want to go to a place," the woman said softly. Therefore, when Qin Wentian returned to the Evergreen Kingdom, his first order was to order everyone in the world to offer a reward for the capture of the main figures of the Jiang clan. "Because the Sky Emperor is my best brother." Ouyang Guangxing laughed uproariously, causing the people around him to be stunned. Ha ha ha. The sounds of laughter were even more exaggerated than Ouyang Guangxing's. This Ouyang Guangxing must have gone mad. A beautiful maiden walked out and helped him tidy his robes. She then smiled. "Is it enough for us to rush to the Evergreen Kingdom?" For a period of time, Evergreen Qing became the target of envy and jealousy for all the females in the immortal realms. In another location, on top of a pavilion, a maiden stood there in a daze, staring at the rosy clouds in the sky. This maiden was extremely beautiful, like a fairy. Her white robes fluttered in the wind. It was unknown how beautiful she was. The people of the immortal realms all understood that with the defeat of the Jiang clan, the chaos in the immortal realms had ended. A brand new era had arrived. In addition, the Heaven Empyrean used the momentum of unifying the immortal realms to organize this wedding. From this, one could very well imagine how intense the repercussions would be. Countless experts, regardless of immortal emperors or kings, immortal foundation or celestial phenomenon ascendants, all did their best to rush to the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom in the eastern regions. One could foresee that this would be a grand wedding that would shake the entire immortal realms. Naturally, from this point, one could tell that the relationship between the Palace Lord and Vice Palace Lord was very good. It wasn't like what many people guessed. They both had ulterior motives. This caused them to feel a chill in their hearts. Seems like back then when the Lifefire Empyrean was killed, the eruption of strength of the Lifefire Empyrean wasn't a coincidence. The two palace lords had long planned this. This was too terrifying. The previous Lifefire Empyrean was completely played by the two palace lords. Xian, don't think too much about the past. No matter what happened in the past, I'm willing to protect you in the future. The person behind her spoke in a gentle voice. The beautiful maiden turned her head and smiled. Is that so? Vice Palace Lord. The eyes of many people in the Evergreen Kingdom flashed. These people referred to Qin Wentian as the Lifefire Empyrean. And this man was actually the Vice Palace Lord? The wedding of the Heaven Empyrean. How great of a commotion would it be? One couldn't help but say that the people of the immortal realms were all very intelligent. Very swiftly, this news was verified. The Evergreen Kingdom Palace sent out news that the Heaven Empyrean would be marrying the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, Evergreen Qing. Back then, junior brother Qin left some things for us. This time around, even if we have to go bankrupt, we have to rush to the Evergreen Kingdom on that day. Lin Shui smiled, his eyes gleaming with radiance. Junior brother Qin is about to get married. The entire immortal realms were discussing this matter. In fact, there were many people who said that this day would be the day the Heaven Empyrean ascended the throne. Nothing much, I just thought of some people and some matters. The beautiful maiden smiled. She was still staring into the distance as a figure appeared in her mind. Although this saying was a little far-fetched, there were still many people who believed it. This was especially so for the maidens. Their envy for Evergreen Qing had reached the extreme. For her, the Heaven Empyrean conquered the entire world. How romantic was this? Qin Wentian, after his return, in an extremely short period of time, he became the sovereign of the myriad Devil Islands, the Heaven Empyrean of the immortal realms. Right now, with a single command from him, he could command all the powers in the world. After the two Empyreans from the Jiang clan were killed, on the other side of the battlefield, the battle in the Evergreen Kingdom Palace also ended. Tian's sealing arts sealed the Empyreans from the Ying clan as well as the Jiang clan. After that, a sealing gate descended as the two Empyreans completely vanished. This was the price they had to pay for their choice back then. As the losers, they had to bear the consequences of their defeat. Back then, if they chose to submit to Qin Wentian, Right now, they would most probably be sitting in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, enjoying their victory. The beautiful eyes of Qing, and Mo Qingqing flashed with a bright light. Chongqing the Great's eyes gleamed with sharpness, as though he was contemplating something. If this was in normal times, this would be a great taboo, a declaration of war. The tripartite balance of power in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms didn't exist for too long before it was completely destroyed. From now on, there would only be one person in the world, the Heaven Empyrean. Where? The man asked. Ha ha. Loud laughter rang out. Ouyang Guangxing and Jiang Ting didn't mind it. The two of them continued laughing, not saying anything. Ouyang, why are you so happy about the wedding of the Heaven Empyrean? Someone beside them asked the man in the couple. The heavenly talisman realm disintegrated. The Empyreans of the Jiang clan were all killed, and the core members of the Jiang clan fled. The Jiang clan only existed in name now. Is there a need to go there to join in the fun? This time around, all the major characters in the immortal realms are going to gather here. Do you really need to be like this? The person beside him laughed. The Heaven Empyrean was Qin Wentian. He owed the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, Evergreen Qing, a wedding. In another location in the immortal realms, there was also another couple who was currently rushing over, doing their best to rush towards the Evergreen Kingdom. They also had the same thoughts as Lin Shuai. They didn't mind spending all their wealth to borrow the power of the teleportation array, wanting to rush there to congratulate Qin Wentian on his wedding day. The woman smiled, glancing at her husband with a gentle gaze. After learning that her junior apprentice brother had become the Heaven Empyrean, her husband wasn't willing to go there to bask in the limelight. He still wanted to rely on himself and walk his own path. However, after hearing that the Heaven Empyrean was going to get married, her husband immediately changed his mind. He was such a person, strong, yet filled with emotions. Even if it was such an order, how could they not obey? The Heaven Empyrean issued an order for all the major powers to send their cultivation arts to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom on the same day. Similarly, on this day, the Heaven Empyrean also gave the order for a grand banquet to be held. He would redistribute the various powers in the world today. Everyone understood that this was to divide the territories, allowing the major powers under his control to truly control the entire world. What a cunning fellow! Qin Wentian silently mused. His immortal sense enveloped the city the Jiang clan was in, but he still couldn't find the silhouettes of Jiang Zihua and his brother. Since they wanted to hide, most probably, they have already fled to a faraway place. Right now, the Heaven Empyrean unified the world. Many people guessed that he wanted to compensate Evergreen Qing, by holding a grand wedding that would shake the entire Azure Mystic. But now, even if Qin Wentian declared war, would those major powers dare to accept it? The Evergreen Kingdom. The young woman spoke. Over 100 years ago, the Heaven Empyrean was hated by all the major powers in the immortal realms. They surrounded the Evergreen Kingdom, and even though the Heaven Empyrean knew that he would die for sure, he still chose to enter the Evergreen Kingdom Palace because he didn't want to implicate his beloved. On that day, the Heaven Empyrean proposed to the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, who was later known as the white-haired killing goddess, Evergreen Qing. The Heaven Empyrean was his best brother? The news soon circulated. After the Heaven Empyrean and the Samsara Immortal Emperor joined forces to destroy the Heavenly Talisman realm, the Heaven Empyrean domineeringly went to the Jiang clan to challenge him and killed him. At the same time, there was also an ancient emperor from the Jiang clan as well as an Empyrean from the Ying clan who ambushed the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. However, they were all killed by a mysterious Empyrean who borrowed the power of a formation. Right now, the Evergreen Kingdom had an extremely terrifying grand formation. This undoubtedly caused many people to feel threatened. Stepping out, Qin Wentian directly departed. He didn't start a massacre here. It was meaningless to kill weaklings, but the core characters of the Jiang clan had to die. When he shouldn't be merciful, he mustn't be merciful. Jiang Zihua was such a sinister character and his talent was extremely high. If he left him alive, he would only be a scourge. Qin Wentian might not be afraid, but he didn't want the people around him to be harmed because of him. The eyes of the young man flashed with a bright light. After that he smiled. The wedding of the Heaven Empyrean, Evergreen Qing, is envied by all the females in the world. Siener, you also wish to go and watch. Since this is the case, when should we set off? The power of the formation gradually calmed down. The experts from the Evergreen Kingdom Palace all stared at Di Tian in astonishment. At this moment, the supreme ancient army brought by Qin Wentian flashed as they bowed to Di Tian. We pay our respects to Vice Palace Lord. Naturally. The other party nodded. Chapter 1703. With the unification of Azure Mystic and the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean, the entire immortal realms shook. The gazes of everyone in Azure Mystic were all focused on the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Right now this royal capital had a new name. This was the intention of Chongqing the Great. Right now, not only were there experts from the Evergreen Kingdom, there were also experts from the Namhuang clan, the Myriad Devil Islands, Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and many others. If they continued to use the name of the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, it wouldn't be too appropriate. It would make the other powers feel like they were relying on the charity of the Evergreen Kingdom. In addition, he was Qin Wentian's father-in-law. It was even more important for him to avoid arousing suspicions. Hence, the Evergreen Immortal Emperor took the initiative to suggest changing the name of the city. Many people didn't object. Right now, Qin Wentian already had the title of the Heaven Empyrean, and became the #1 character in Azure Mystic, the #1 emperor throughout the ages. Since he decided to stay in this city, he also allowed the major powers to relocate here. This city became the center of Azure Mystic, and was the center of attention. Hence, Qin Wentian also agreed. At the entrance of the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, a new name was hung up. Heaven Empyrean City. Heaven Empyrean City was expanded. Its territory extended out in all directions. All of them were absorbed into Heaven Empyrean City. Countless experts from the immortal realms rushed over to Heaven Empyrean City. All of them were here for the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean. They didn't dare to imagine how grand the wedding of the Heaven Empyrean would be. As for the wedding, there were naturally people helping Qin Wentian to prepare. Namfeng Yaoyue GD and the experts from the Lifire Palace were all busy. If this was in the past, it would be hard to imagine that they would help others to prepare for their wedding. In the past, such matters were nothing but mundane matters to them. But this time around it was different. This was the wedding of Qin Wentian and Qing. During this period of time, Di Tian went to open the seal on the particle world. Back then he had no other choice but to seal the particle world. Now that Eastern Sage has died, how could he not invite his foster father to attend the wedding? In addition, regardless of Qin Wentian or Mo Qingqing, it has been several hundred years since they last saw their family. They naturally missed them very much. In the Chu country of Grand Xia, the Qin clan was now the #1 power in Chu. Back then when Qin Wentian left the sealed particle world, Di Tian sealed the cultivation bases of all the invaders, making them stay behind to guide the people of the world. He also left behind many treasures in the Qin clan. In addition to the fact that Qin Wentian was the #1 expert under the heavens, one could very well imagine the development of the Qin clan. Even after so many years, the Qin clan had already undergone a complete transformation, becoming a first-rate power in the particle world. Naturally, the person in charge of the Qin clan now was no longer Qin Chuan. He had long retired and left the Qin clan to Qin He to manage. At this moment, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing's silhouettes landed outside the Qin residence. Qing'er didn't come. This time around, Qing'er was the bride and she had to make some preparations. And since he made a trip to the particle world, other than to fetch his family members, he naturally had to fetch Qingqing's family members as well. As for whether they would choose to stay in the particle world or follow him, Qin Wentian wouldn't force them. He would let them make the choice themselves. Everyone had their own life to live. He wouldn't force his way of thinking onto others. Staring at the majestic residence before him, a radiant smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. He thought that after he sealed the particle world back then, he wouldn't be able to return for a very long time. He didn't expect that he would be able to return home so soon. No matter where he went, no matter how far he walked, this place would forever be the home he grew up in. The guards of the Qin residence stared at the two of them. Their auras were too outstanding. Although Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing retracted their auras, they were still breathtaking. Maybe they didn't have much of a feeling towards Qin Wentian's aura, but for a supreme beauty like Mo Qingqing, no matter who it was, they couldn't help but to steal a few more glances at her. How beautiful! Even the number one beauty in Chu would feel inferior in front of her. The guards of the Qin residence silently mused. At this moment, a group of silhouettes walked out from the Qin residence. The person in the lead had an imposing appearance and was extraordinarily handsome. He was clad in luxurious robes and had a cultivation base at the Heavenly Dipper realm. There were many people following behind him. All of them were his guards. This was a descendant of the Qin clan, Qin Yang. The instant Qin Yang saw Mo Qingqing, he found it hard to shift his gaze away. She was too beautiful. As a disciple of the Qin clan, he had outstanding talent and a high status in Chu. He had even wooed the number one beauty in Chu before. But compared to the number one beauty in Chu, the number one beauty in Chu was simply too tacky. "My name is Qin Yang, may I know the name of Miss?" Qin Yang smiled. As for Qin Wentian, he was completely disregarded by Qin Yang. Qin Wentian laughed. Given Mo Qingqing's current beauty and demeanor, ordinary people would find it hard to resist her. He smiled as he held Mo Qingqing's hand, staring at Qin Yang. Being able to reach the Heavenly Dipper realm at such a young age, he was indeed a good seedling. Qin Yang's eyes narrowed when he saw Qin Wentian's actions. "I wonder what instructions does Miss have for coming to my Qin residence?" "We are here to pay our respects to Old Master Qin of Qin Creek." Qin Wentian smiled. "Impudent." Qin Yang coldly snorted, glaring at Qin Wentian as he icily stated, "The name of the old master isn't something you can call out. Men, take him down." As the sound of his voice faded, several people rushed forward and surrounded Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian froze. His earlier good mood was instantly destroyed. He stared at Qin Yang as he asked, "Who is Qin He to you?" "Take him down." Qin Yang waved his hands as he spoke. His gaze shifted to Mo Qingqing as he smiled. "Miss, if there's anything you need, I can be of service." Mo Qingqing's countenance turned cold as she stared at Qin Yang. Back then, the Qin clan was a clan of iron-blooded men. Now they had actually nurtured a silk pants? A surge of might gushed forth from Qin Wentian. Instantly, those surrounding him stiffened. Qin Yang's countenance changed. He stared at Qin Wentian only to see Qin Wentian walking forward as he asked again, "Who is Qin He to you? You dare to be so impudent in my Qin residence?" Qin Yang could sense that Qin Wentian's aura was much stronger compared to his. Qin Wentian didn't waste words with him. His immortal sense instantly enveloped the entire Qin residence. In the depths of the Qin residence, Qin Chuan was currently lying in his courtyard, basking in the sun. Qin Yao was beside him, chatting with him. "This last, there are so many outstanding males in Grand Xia wooing you. Yet you refuse to marry them. How long do you want me, this old man, to wait?" Qin Chuan's eyes flickered with a doting light as he shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Father, isn't it good for your daughter to always accompany you?" Qin Yao spoke in a sweet voice. "Humph, it's all that brat Wentian's fault. That fellow's talent is obvious for all to see. Are you looking down on all males?" Qin Chuan pretended to be angry. It's all that brat's fault. The next time we see him, should we give him a good beating?" Qin Yao smiled. "Yes, we must give him a good beating." Qin Chuan smiled as he nodded. His eyes were filled with longing as he mumbled, "I wonder how that fellow is doing now." "Father, sister, I'm here to be beaten up." A voice suddenly drifted over. Qin Chuan and Qin Yao's bodies trembled violently as their hearts pounded. Qin Chuan abruptly stood up as he called out, "Wentian. Father, your son is unfilial. It has been so many years since I came back to see you." As the sound of the voice faded, two silhouettes appeared in front of Qin Chuan. Upon seeing these two, Qin Chuan and Qin Yao's bodies trembled even more violently. Qin Chuan laughed uproariously as his eyes reddened. His body trembled as he walked forward, placing his hands on Qin Wentian's shoulders. Good, it's good that you're back." Qin Wentian's heart trembled as he said, Good, it's good that you're back, father." Qin Wentian hugged Qin Chuan, as Qin Chuan patted his back harshly. After the separation of father and son, Qin Wentian glanced at Qin Yao. Qin Yao's eyes were already red as tears flowed down her cheeks. She was currently wiping them away with her hands. Qin Wentian called out, "Sister." "MHM." Qin Yao nodded her head heavily, involuntarily recalling the events of her youth. Back then, she would always bully Qin Wentian, forcing him to carry her on his back. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, a few hundred years had passed? Qin Wentian walked to Qin Yao's side and gave her a tight hug. The tears in Qin Yao's eyes could no longer be restrained as they flowed unceasingly. "Father." Qin Qing bowed to Qin Chuan. "Qin Qing, good, very good." Qin Chuan nodded his head forcefully, only to see numerous silhouettes rushing over. Qin He, Qin Yi, as well as the second-generation Qin Shang and Qin Ji, as well as their descendants. Very swiftly, the courtyard was filled with people, and the sounds of whispers could be heard unceasingly. Everyone stared at the two silhouettes standing in the middle of the courtyard, and they already knew who they were. Qin Wentian, the people of the Qin clan, had returned. "Uncle." A voice drifted over. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over only to see a beautiful lady running to his side. She had a bashful expression on her face as she tilted her head up and stared at him. "You are Xianer?" Qin Wentian smiled. "MHM." Qin Xian nodded her head vigorously. "Haha, little lass, you've already grown up." Qin Wentian hugged Qin Xian. Back then when he left this particle world, Qin Shang's daughter was only 8 years old. Now, she was already a slender and elegant woman with a cultivation base at the peak of Heavenly Dipper. Qin Xian's face flushed red, but she still felt warmth in her heart. Back then, although she was only 8 years old, she would never be able to forget her uncle's glory. "Wentian." Qin He walked out and called out. Right now, he already exuded an imposing aura. "Second uncle." Qin Wentian smiled as he greeted. "Qin Yang, scram out here and kneel." Qin He coldly snorted. Qin Yang immediately walked out from the crowd, trembling with fear. He was so scared that his legs had gone soft. He was actually Qin Wentian, the legendary character of the entire world, the faith of the Qin clan, the god of Chu. Qin Yang is muddle-headed. Qin Yang knelt on the ground. "It's fine if we spoil you normally, but you actually don't know what's good for you. You are getting more and more insolent. If it wasn't for the fact that the person we met today wasn't your uncle, wouldn't the Qin clan be in trouble? Drag him out and break one of his legs." Qin He icily spoke. "What's going on?" Qin Chuan asked. Qin He told Qin Chuan about what happened earlier, causing Qin Chuan's countenance to turn cold. "Break both his legs." Qin Chuan icily spoke. Who was Mo Qingcheng? She was Wentian's wife. This unfilial descendant actually dared to offend her? "Father, second uncle, forget it." Qin Wentian bitterly smiled. It was rare for him to return home. He didn't want to cause any unhappiness. "Wentian, it's already a shameful matter for the Qin clan to produce a silk pants. Now that he even offended you, how can we forgive him? Drag him out and break both his legs." Qin He coldly waved his hands. Qin Wentian didn't try to stop him. He could heal broken legs, but if the descendants of the Qin clan were all like this, it wouldn't be a good thing. He decided to teach the descendants of the Qin clan a lesson. Chapter 1704. Qin Yang was brought away. His father was the son of Qin Shang, Qin Qi. His mother was also a member of a major clan in Chu. When they heard that their son's leg was about to be broken, both of their countenances turned extremely unsightly. But since Qin Chuan and Qin He had already spoken, they knew that it was useless even if they begged for mercy. Hence, their gazes towards Qin Wentian involuntarily turned somewhat cold. Qin Wentian naturally felt it as well. Right now, the Qin clan had expanded by many times compared to the past, becoming a true aristocratic clan. However, it was no longer the same as before. It was inevitable for a great clan to produce silk pants. This could be considered as a lesson for the younger generations. Naturally, other than Qin Yang's parents, many others were still staring at Qin Wentian with fanaticism in their eyes. This was especially so for those of the older generations. Qin Wentian had left for 200 years. The younger generations had only heard of his story, but they had never truly experienced that era. They didn't understand what sort of transcendent status Qin Wentian had. But for those of the older generations, they all knew what sort of legend Qin Wentian was. All of you can leave now. What's with all of you crowding around here? Qin Chuan waved his hands, not wanting to disturb the reunion between him and Qin Wentian. The gazes of everyone were still fixed on Qin Wentian. The fanaticism in their eyes was filled with reluctance, as though they wanted to take a few more glances at him. Some of the youths wanted to step forward, yet they didn't dare to. They could only follow their elders and leave, leaving only a few important people behind. The courtyard quieted down again, but the entire Qin clan was in a commotion. The legendary character of the Qin clan, Qin Wentian, had returned. The people of the Qin clan had long since memorized many of his legends. Today they personally saw him in person. However, that damnable bastard Qin Yang actually dared to offend the legendary character of the Qin clan. What a bastard! No wonder the clan lord and old man were so angry. Father, it's only right for me to see my family. Qin Wentian stared at Qin Chuan as he spoke. Now that there are so many people in the clan, you wouldn't like it to be so noisy. In addition, Qingqing is here as well. Qin Chuan waved his hands. Qingqing, that bastard Qin Yang offended you. It was my fault for not disciplining him properly. Father, it's nothing. Mo Qingqing shook her head. It wasn't a big deal, it was just a small offense. However, she also understood that Qin Wentian and Qin Chuan both wanted to curb this silk pants attitude of theirs. Hence, she didn't say anything earlier. She just wanted to let that young man suffer a little. As for his injuries, they could naturally be healed. Father, there's no need to be so polite with Qingqing. Qin Wentian held Qingqing's hand as he smiled at Qin Chuan. Yes, you've been married for so many years, why should I be polite? Qin Chuan laughed. Oh yeah, did Qingqing return to the Mo residence? Your grandpa and parents would often come to chat with me. They miss you very much. Back then when Qin Wentian fought against the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, he sent his family and friends back to his particle world. After that, he sent people to fetch them back. At that time, the people of Qin Chuan and the Mo clan all chose to stay behind and didn't return to the immortal realms. This place was their route. Not yet, I'll pay my respects to father first before heading to the Mo residence. Mo Qingqing smiled. This old man of mine is doing very well. Wentian, bring Qingqing to the Mo residence to see her parents. Qin Chuan waved his hands. Qin Wentian knew that Qin Chuan was doing this for him and Qingqing. He felt warmth in his heart as he spoke. Father, how can I chase them away the moment I returned? Since I'm already here, why would I be in such a rush? What are you saying? You know that you are here to visit me. Could it be that Qingqing doesn't want to see her family? Qin Chuan glared at Qin Wentian and waved his hands. Go. Okay, I'll go now. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled as he shook his head. Father, this time around, I'm here to bring you to the immortal realms. Qing, and I are going to be married soon. Married soon? Qin Chuan started. After that, a smile appeared on his face as he nodded heavily. Right, foster father will definitely go. Father, uncle, I'll head over first. I'll be back soon. Qin Wentian smiled. As he spoke, a spatial gate appeared. Qin Wentian pulled Mo Qingqing's hand and stepped into it, directly disappearing from sight. He didn't reject Qin Chuan's good intentions. After all, to him, the distance between the Qin residence and the Mo residence was just a matter of a single thought. He could come back and forth anytime he wanted. There was no need for him to be polite. Qin Chuan and Qin Yao saw Qin Wentian directly stepping into the spatial gate. They stared at the disappearing spatial gate, and were speechless for a very long time. That brat, how strong is he now exactly? Qin Chuan's voice trembled as he asked Qin Yao. Qin Yao's eyes were still red. Although she was smiling, there were tears in her eyes. She choked with sobs as she replied. Father, why are you asking me? How would I know? I'm afraid it's already a realm that we can no longer know. Although the Mo clan wasn't as glorious as the Qin residence, it was still extremely prosperous now. with the relationship between Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. In addition to the fact that Mo Qingqing's family chose to stay in this particle world, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing had left behind many good things for them. They even helped Mo Feng and Mo Yu to change their physiques. Right now, Mo Feng was already the clan leader of the Mo clan. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing directly arrived outside the Mo residence. He held Mo Qingqing's hand as they walked towards the Mo clan. At this moment, Mo Feng was currently gathering the experts of the Mo clan, preparing to head out to handle some matters. Just as they exited the Mo residence, they saw Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing walking over. Mo Feng was instantly stunned. The other members of the Mo clan stared dumbfoundedly at Mo Qingqing, silently musing at how beautiful this maiden was. In the next instant, a look of wild joy appeared on Mo Feng's face. He kept the divine weapon in his hand and instantly sped towards Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. When he saw Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing smiling at him, Mo Feng's eyes turned slightly red as he called out, "Brother-in-law, sis Qingqing. Good brat, you are already so powerful." Qin Wentian laughed. Right now, Mo Feng's cultivation base was already at the celestial phenomenon realm. Mo Feng smiled as he scratched his head. He knew that this little bit of cultivation base was simply insufficient in front of his brother-in-law. "Brother-in-law, if you are willing to teach me cultivation, I would definitely not be at my current level." Mo Feng laughed. Mo Qingqing rolled her eyes. "You are truly intelligent. How would your brother-in-law have the time to teach you?" "R." A shrill scream rang out. A beautiful maiden dashed towards Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. Her face was bright red. It was none other than Mo Yu. "Little lass Mo Yu, what are you screaming for?" Qin Wentian laughed as he stared at Mo Yu, whose face was burning red. "Mo Feng, am I dreaming?" Mo Yu rubbed her eyes as she asked. "Haha." Qin Wentian laughed as he ruffled Mo Yu's hair. These two little fellows weren't young anymore, and their cultivation bases were extraordinary as well. Yet, they were still acting like children in front of him. Little did he know that at this moment, the members of the Mo clan were completely dumbfounded. The clan lord and cold-faced goddess, who were usually incomparably imposing, were actually acting like children. Who were these two people exactly? Brother-in-law? Elder sister? Their hearts pounded violently as they thought of a legendary character in the Mo clan. She was once the #1 beauty in Chu, and after that, she joined the Pill Emperor Hall and eventually married Qin Wentian. She was the legend of their Mo clan. And now, this couple had returned? Upon thinking of this, the faces of the younger generations of the Mo clan all turned red as they stared at Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. "Brother-in-law, you are really back." Mo Yu's beautiful face was flushed red from excitement. "MHM, we are back." Qin Wentian nodded. "Mo Feng, what are you guys doing?" Mo Qingqing asked. The smile on Mo Feng's face stiffened, after which he spoke, "Elder sister, let's not talk about this first. Let's return home first." "Little brats, all of you get out of my way." Mo Feng turned and grinned. The crowd parted to form a path as an extremely young and beautiful maiden walked over and called out, "Aunt, uncle." Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing both glanced at Mo Feng only to hear Mo Feng saying, "This is my daughter, Shiryao. I've already become an aunt." Mo Qingqing smiled at Qin Wentian. Her gaze towards Shiryao was filled with doting love as she asked, "Shiryao, what gift do you want?" "Aunt, there's no need." Mo Shiryao shook her head. "Silly lass." Mo Qingqing smiled. A wisp of holy light from Qin Wentian landed on Shiryao. The resplendent light of life caused Mo Shiryao to feel extremely comfortable. Her eyes flashed with a strange light as she timidly glanced at Qin Wentian before lowering her head. In the Mo residence, upon learning that Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing had returned, everyone in the residence came out to welcome them. Mo Qingqing's grandfather and parents were all extremely happy. Qin Wentian stood there, a warm smile on his face as he stared at Mo Qingqing and her parents hugging each other. "Wentian." Old man Mo glanced in the direction of Qin Wentian. "Is old man doing well?" Qin Wentian smiled as he asked. The grudges between them in the past had already vanished like smoke in thin air. "MHM, I'm doing well. It's just that I haven't seen you guys for many years, and would often think of you. I would also frequently visit your foster father's place. Old Man Mo smiled. Foster father also told me that if old man feels bored, you can move to the immortal realms in the future. The immortal realms would definitely be much more interesting compared to the particle world. Haha, I'm just afraid that my old bones wouldn't be able to withstand the torment. Old Man Mo laughed uproariously. Men, quickly prepare a banquet. Mo Feng, send someone to the Qin residence to fetch Old Man Qin, and the others over. Today they will be having a banquet at my Mo residence. Right. Mo Feng nodded. Mo Feng, wait a minute. Qin Wentian called out. He walked to Mo Shiyao's side and asked, Shiyao, what's going on with your injuries? Earlier, the life energy radiating from him was healing Mo Shiyao's injuries. Given his cultivation base, how could he not be able to tell that Mo Shiyao was injured? Brother-in-law. Mo Feng found it hard to speak. Mou, you speak. Qin Wentian stared at Mou. In this world, there's actually someone who dares to touch the people of my Mo residence. The experts of the Mo clan felt their hearts trembling when they heard Qin Wentian's words. How tyrannical, as expected of a legendary character. Brother-in-law, back then in the battle in your particle world, you sealed many immortals and allowed them to come to Chu to educate the people of the world. As long as one of their disciples joined their sect, they couldn't reject and had to guide them. Because of this, our Chu country produced some extremely powerful characters. But now, a disciple of an immortal? That bastard actually. Mou's countenance turned red from anger. He played with Shiyao's feelings. Mou coldly spoke. Enough, Wentian isn't an outsider. Just speak frankly. That bastard intentionally tried to woo Shiyao, and Shiyao agreed to be in a relationship with him. That bastard wanted to take things a step further, but Shiyao didn't agree. Old Man Mo coldly spoke. Hence, that bastard actually found a few women to do that kind of thing, and even intentionally let Shiyao see it. He insulted Shiyao for wanting to give him face, but Shiyao rebuked him, and was injured by him. Mou's countenance was extremely ugly to behold. Brother-in-law, I want to kill that bastard. Mo Feng icily spoke. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing finally understood why Mo Feng brought his men out earlier. Since he is the disciple of that immortal who stayed behind, could it be that he doesn't know what relationship I have with Qingqing? Why would he dare to do such a thing? Qin Wentian's tone also turned cold. Mou spoke. That's right, Mou. Mo Feng interrupted her. Mou glared at him. Don't stop me. Brother-in-law, there's a high possibility that this immortal has a grudge against you and instigated his disciple to do this. He wants revenge, and if it wasn't for the fact that his cultivation base was sealed, he would have already acted personally. Chapter 1705. Qin Wentian's expression turned completely cold. Back then during the battle between the Dongshengshan Gate and the immortal Qianbian Gate, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor was defeated and sent people to ambush him in his particle world, wanting to use this method to lure him over. He used Ditian's body to descend into the particle world, and killed the blazing fiend Immortal King, sealing an Immortal King and a group of immortals, allowing them to stay in Chu to guide the people of Chu in cultivation. Who would have thought that even now, there would still be trouble left behind? There were immortals who wanted to use the disciples they nurtured to deal with his kin. Seems like after being sealed for hundreds of years, they couldn't endure it any longer, and were filled with resentment. Mo Qingqing walked to Shiyao's side and lightly hugged her. Shiyao, did he hurt you? No, aunt, I was only humiliated a little, and suffered some minor injuries. Mo Shiyao's eyes were red as she shook her head. Unforgivable. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Brother-in-law, I've lost face for you. Mo Feng lowered his head as he spoke. Qin Wentian waved his hands. His immortal sense gushed out, instantly enveloping the entire Chu country. All the immortals who were sealed were found by him and appeared in his mind. Also, the things they were doing now were all displayed in his mind. Among them, in front of a palace, there were many people gathered there. There was an immortal king who was sealed, and there were also many other immortals gathered here. Other than them, there were also some juniors at the Celestial Phenomenon Realm and Heavenly Dipper Realm. In a particle world, this could be considered an extremely powerful force. Master, the Mo clan should be preparing to deal with us. We have waited for so long, we will definitely make sure that they won't be able to return alive. A peak-level ascendant spoke. His master was none other than the sealed Immortal King. With the guidance of an Immortal King, it was no wonder that he could reach such a high cultivation realm. That Immortal King closed his eyes, but a cold expression could be seen on his face. I'm still a little worried. It's said that that fellow once controlled the strongest power in this particle world. Although the Medicine Sovereign Valley is in seclusion, they once belonged to him. Would he still have some trump cards hidden in this particle world? An immortal spoke. What's there to be afraid of? The powerful ones have all been brought away. Also, he has offended many major characters of the immortal realms, and hasn't returned for several hundred years. Don't you guys understand? Someone spoke. You mean he's already dead? It's very normal for experts in the immortal realms to die. This is especially so for those who have shown off their brilliance. They didn't return home for a few hundred years. There's an 80% chance that they have already died. We have always endured and didn't touch the Mo clan, initially wanting to slowly torture them, starting from the descendants of the Mo clan. But this time around, since all pretense of cordiality has already been shredded, we might as well be more direct. An immortal coldly spoke. That's right. Master, please bestow Mo Shiryao to me. This woman actually dared to reject my request. I'm definitely going to have some fun. A young man at the high-level Celestial Phenomenon Realm looked rather handsome, but at this moment, his expression was somewhat sinister. Fine. Since Mo Shiryao's master has no objections, how can master not agree? That Immortal King opened his eyes and smiled at an Immortal Foundation expert. This man was none other than Mo Shiryao's master. Mo Shiryao had chosen to take him as her master. Not only for Mo Shiryao, many people in Chu had chosen to take these Immortal Kings as their masters as well. There were also quite a few from the Mo clan. Many thanks for master's help. Sadly, that Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to see this scene. If not, even if he died, he would definitely regret his actions back then. Ling Ting laughed. When he thought of Mo Shiryao's beauty, a fire burned in his heart. What a shameless woman. That Immortal King and the other immortals all had cold expressions on their faces. Someone spoke. Not only do we want to make him regret. After the Mo clan, it's the Qin clan. I want Qin Wentian to live a life worse than death even if he didn't die. Is that so? A voice suddenly drifted over. As the sound of this voice faded, the wind and clouds howled in the air. The countenances of the immortals all stiffened. Ling Ting coldly spoke. Who is it? A terrifying whistling sound rang out in the air. After that, rumbling sounds rang out as the palace was directly torn into pieces. The countenances of the group of them were filled with shock. They only saw an extremely terrifying spatial energy tearing everything apart. After that, the space in the surroundings became chaotic, unceasingly fluctuating. Behind them, a terrifying spatial vortex appeared. After that, something seemed to have opened up as a spatial passageway appeared between the heavens and earth. At the other end of the spatial passageway, they saw a group of people standing there. That place seemed to be the Mo clan. The person in the lead had his hands clasped behind his back. His cold gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through space, landing on them. When they saw clearly who this person was, their countenances instantly turned pale. All of them were so frightened that their bodies trembled. An uncontrollable terror rose up in their hearts. Qin Wentian has returned. In addition, he became even stronger than before, directly opening a spatial gate, disregarding distance. What cultivation realm was this? That Immortal King had a look of shock on his face, as though his heart was struck by lightning. Even immortal emperors wouldn't be able to achieve such a feat. He instantly felt boundless regret. Since Qin Wentian has already reached such a level and returned here, he should be prepared to spare them. But now, when he thought of this, the other immortals naturally thought of it as well. Their countenances turned as pale as paper. At this moment, How could the people of the Mo clan not be incomparably shocked? Qin Wentian actually waved his hand and directly opened a spatial gate, disregarding distance, allowing them to see the situation over there. That Ling Teng was none other than the person who humiliated Mo Shiryao. Shiryao, is it him? Numerous strands of spatial energy transformed into spatial threads, directly binding Ling Teng. In an instant, Ling Teng's body was covered by millions of spatial threads, causing him to be unable to move. MHM. Mo Shiryao nodded her head with reddened eyes. Shiryao, this ant-like person isn't worthy of you at all. There's no need to feel pity for his death. As long as you are willing, you can always find someone better. In the future, you will definitely become an immortal. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Right now he had such confidence. Immortals might be lofty existences in particle worlds, but to him who has already transcended the immortal emperor realm, as long as he was willing, it wouldn't be too difficult to nurture an immortal. A casual sentence from him caused the hearts of everyone to tremble violently. The people of the Mo clan stared at him with boundless reverence in their eyes. Was this the legendary son-in-law of the Mo clan? An immortal was nothing in his eyes. As long as Shiryao was willing, he would be able to help Shiryao become an immortal. Uncle. Mo Shiryao's tears flowed. She leaned into Mo Qingqing's embrace. Mo Qingqing patted her on the shoulder. Silly lass. Shiryao, I was wrong. Please spare me, I really like you. Ling Ting begged. At this moment, he was incomparably regretful. He had chased after Mo Shiryao, and Mo Shiryao had such an uncle-in-law. Yet he had actually gone against the Mo clan for his sealed master. Was he crazy? If he was really together with Mo Shiryao, what accomplishments would he have in the future? Shameless. Qin Wentian casually waved his hand. In an instant, Ling Teng's body vanished from sight. Everyone only saw a beam of light before Ling Teng completely vanished into nothingness. This time around, I initially wanted to pardon all of you and undo the seal. However, all of you are courting death. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Earlier when he heard the words of these people, he felt a chill in his heart. If he came a little later, there might be some unimaginable consequences. If that was the case, he wouldn't even have the time to feel regret. The expressions of everyone drastically changed, turning as pale as paper. After that, they only saw Qin Wentian lifting his hand as a terrifying palm imprint manifested, slamming down towards them. Inclining their heads and staring at the palm imprint, looks of despair and regret could be seen on everyone's faces. Boom! With a thunderous boom, that area was raised to flat ground. The spatial tunnel closed, and everything returned to normal. Qin Wentian was still standing there, but the gazes of those from the Mo clan changed again when they looked at him. Was this what a legend was? A true legend. Back then when these people came to our particle world to wreak havoc, I sealed them and forced them to guide the people of Chu in cultivation. However, I still underestimated the hatred of humans. Seems like I have to give them a good warning. Qin Wentian spoke. A terrifying wave of immortal sense gushed forth, instantly extending beyond Chu, to Grand Xia, and eventually to the entire particle world. This immortal sense wasn't concealed at all, it was like heavenly might. At this moment, countless people felt their hearts trembling as they inclined their heads and stared at the void. After that, they only saw the wind and clouds changing as a supreme figure appeared in the air. In an instant, everyone in the world saw a handsome white-robed figure that resembled a true divinity, standing there in the air. In Grand Xia, countless people inclined their heads, and when they saw Qin Wentian, many people called out, "Monarch!" In the territory of the royal sacred sect, countless people inclined their heads as their hearts pounded violently. That was none other than Qin Wentian. Many people who had seen Qin Wentian before, as well as some of Qin Wentian's acquaintances, felt intense waves of shock in their hearts when they saw him. He has returned and he was like a heavenly divinity, standing tall in the air, allowing the entire world to see him. I am Qin Wentian. A voice rang out from Qin Wentian's mouth. Back then, immortals from the immortal realms wreaked havoc in our particle world, and I sealed them here. Initially, I wanted to undo the seal, but when I returned, I discovered that a bunch of immortals were actually plotting against my family members. Their crimes are unforgivable, and I've already killed them all. I've decided that the immortals who were sealed here will continue to stay in our particle world to guide the people of our particle world in cultivation. The next time I return, I will undo the seal. You guys don't have to depend on the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. He has already been killed by me. Other than this, if there's anyone else who dares to cause havoc in our particle world after breaking through to the immortal realm, I will definitely kill them. His voice rumbled through the world, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. There were even some who prostrated themselves on the ground to pay their respects. Was this the legend of this particle world? The number one genius under the heavens, Qin Wentian? He had returned and was even stronger than before. Back then, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor who came to this particle world to recruit a disciple. How imposing was he? His immortal palace descended from the heavens, causing the entire world to prostrate before him. Yet such a character was actually killed by Qin Wentian. In the Qin residence, Qin Yang, who had both his legs broken, initially felt an intense hatred for Qin Wentian. But now when he saw the figure in the air, he was completely dumbfounded. After that, he only felt incomparable shame. This uncle of his, how glorious was he? A single word from him was the law. No one in the world dared to defy him. Yet he actually did such a disgraceful thing, and his uncle still pleaded for him. If he wasn't someone from the Qin clan, given Qin Wentian's status, even 100 deaths wouldn't be enough for him. Qin Yang's parents originally had some thoughts about Qin Wentian. But at this moment, they were speechless in their hearts. Father, mother, will uncle hate me in the future? Will he not bring me along to cultivate? Qin Yang felt incomparable regret. If he followed his uncle in cultivation, what accomplishments would he have in the future? Chapter 1706. After Qin Wentian transmitted his voice, his silhouette vanished from the sky. The people of the Mo residence stared at Qin Wentian, as the shock in their hearts grew even more intense. They didn't know how to express this. Their son-in-law, Qin Wentian, was actually a character like a heavenly deity. After that, Qin Wentian directly returned to the Qin residence, and brought Qin Chuan and the others over to the Mo residence for a banquet. The two clans naturally had a joyous and harmonious atmosphere. After that, Qin Wentian went out and invited some of his old friends from his particle world over, inviting them to Azure Mystic to attend his wedding. He hoped that on the day of his wedding with Qing Heir, his family and friends would all be present. In the particle world, a group of people headed towards the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. When they arrived at the Imperial Palace of the Heaven Empyrean City, the juniors were all stunned as looks of shock could be seen on their faces. Qin Wentian brought them directly to the Imperial Palace. Qin Chuan asked, "Wentian, where is this place?" "Evergreen Kingdom Palace, Qing Heir's home." Qin Wentian smiled. "Sure." Qin Chuan inclined his head and stared at the majestic surroundings. "Wentian, father can't give you anything. You have to fight for everything yourself." "Father, what nonsense are you talking about?" Qin Wentian speechlessly laughed. He knew what Qin Chuan was thinking. Most probably, Qin Wentian thought that it would be awkward for him to be married in Qing Heir's home. Qin Wentian was thinking too much. "Brother-in-law, Princess Qing Heir is a princess of the Azure Mystic Immortal Empire. In that case, wouldn't this father-in-law of yours be the younger brother of the emperor? His cultivation base is extremely high, right?" Mo Feng asked shyly. Qin Wentian rolled his eyes. "Yes, yes." At this moment a figure flashed over, bowing to Qin Wentian. "Palace Lord." "What's the matter?" Qin Wentian glanced at the other party. "Someone claims to be a friend of Palace Lord, and is here to pay his respects." That person replied. "Okay, I'll go take a look." Qin Wentian nodded. "Father, I'll arrange for you to rest first." "And go ahead." Qin Chuan and the others nodded their heads. Qin Wentian instructed the people from the Lifefire Palace. After that, he left by himself. The experts from the Lifefire Palace brought Qin Chuan and the others to a palace specially prepared for them. "Senior, can I ask you something?" Mo Feng walked to the side of that expert from the Lifefire Palace and secretly asked. "Speak." The expert from the Lifefire Palace smiled and nodded. What is the palace master's level? How powerful is he? Emofeng curiously asked. The people in the surroundings rolled their eyes and his father directly berated. Emofeng, stop your nonsense. But although this was the case, many people pricked up their ears, wanting to hear what the other party had to say. They were also very curious. Qin Wentian was the #1 expert in this particle world, but they had no idea how he was doing in the immortal realms now. Qin Wentian said that he even killed the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. He should be extremely tyrannical, right? That expert from the Lifefire Palace had a face filled with black lines. He speechlessly stared at Emofeng. The palace lord didn't tell you? No, I'm too embarrassed to ask brother-in-law. Emofeng scratched his head. I don't dare to speak nonsense behind the palace lord's back. The wedding will be held 3 days later. At that time, you will naturally know what level the palace lord is at. That expert from the Lifefire Palace laughed. Emofeng felt a little disappointed, but he still nodded his head. All right then. The him right now was truly curious. Sis, why don't you tell me? Emofeng glanced at Emo Qingcheng, only to see Emo Qingcheng glaring at him. Emofeng could only smile helplessly. As for Qin Wentian, he came to the reception area of the royal palace. When he saw the two of them, a radiant smile appeared on his face. He walked up and gave that young man a big hug, patting him on the back as he smiled. Ouyang, long time no see. Long time no see. Ouyang Guangxing felt a little emotional when he saw Qin Wentian again. He stared at Qin Wentian's transcendent aura as he spoke. Life is truly mysterious. I, Ouyang Guangxing, have always been conceited, but never in my wildest dreams did I expect that when I meet you again after a few hundred years, you have already become the overlord of the immortal realms. Do you know that on the way here, when I said that I'm the brother of the Heaven Empyrean, the gazes of others when they looked at me were like they were looking at an idiot. In that case, when they see you again on the day of my wedding, they will all become idiots. Qin Wentian laughed. Haha, that's right. I'm also filled with anticipation to see the expressions of those fellows. Ouyang Guangxing nodded. My brother has become the Heaven Empyrean. It's all thanks to you. What are you talking about? Qin Wentian glared at Ouyang Guangxing. He then turned to Jiang Ting. Ouyang, after Jiang Ting became an immortal, she grew more and more beautiful. Your luck with women isn't bad. You fellow, you dare to say that about me? Ouyang Guangxing pointed at Qin Wentian. Back then in our particle world, you married Emo Qingcheng. In the lower world, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Emo Qingcheng is the #1 beauty. And now, you even recruited the palace mistress of the Evergreen Kingdom into your harem. How envious. In that case, are you very envious? Jiang Ting, who was at the side, giggled. No, how would I dare to? I'll only marry one. Ouyang Guangxing smiled when he saw the look in Jiang Ting's eyes. Seeing that the relationship between the two of them was still so good, Qin Wentian couldn't help but to smile happily. Let's go, let's chat in the palace. There are still 3 days left, and the news of my wedding should be known by everyone in the world. I wonder if those fellows would rush over to attend. Qin Wentian spoke. If they can make it in time, they will definitely come. Ouyang Guangxing nodded. Let's hope so. Qin Wentian nodded. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms couldn't be compared to particle worlds. In a particle world, he could sweep out with his immortal sense and swiftly find everyone. But in the immortal realms, it was impossible. They could only depend on themselves. Just like what Ouyang Guangxing said, at this moment, many of his friends were already on their way, and some of them had already arrived in Heaven Empyrean City. Naturally, not only them. Right now, people from the entire immortal realms were rushing over to Heaven Empyrean City. For a period of time, the city was filled to the brim with people. All the inns were filled to the brim, and many people didn't even have a place to stay for the night. But now, Heaven Empyrean City had already become a city that never sleeps. Even at night, there would still be countless people discussing the wedding. The disciples of the various peak powers had long arrived. Even the second-tier powers also arrived. Immortal emperors and immortal kings could be seen everywhere. And immortal foundation experts were even more common. This was truly a scene that attracted the attention of the entire world. There had never been a wedding that could cause such a huge commotion. The Heaven Empyrean wanted to unify the world and marry the evergreen Qing heir. How could this not cause a commotion? The day of the wedding finally arrived. Today, the entire world was in the limelight. The surroundings of the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom were filled with resplendent lights and resplendent colors. A fiery red carpet was laid out from the Evergreen Kingdom's royal palace to a distance of 100 miles. Both sides of the carpet were guarded by experts from the various peak powers. Resplendent light permeated the air. Many experts stood on both sides to maintain order, separating the wedding venue from the spectators. Only those from the peak powers and those close to Qin Wentian could enter. The experts in the air were like immortal soldiers and heavenly generals, incomparably imposing. In the outer perimeter, it was unknown how many people were there. It was simply impossible to see the end of the crowd. Many people had fanatical looks on their faces. Today was the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean. The Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian, this legend of the immortal realms. Half of the peak powers in the immortal realms hated his talent, and came to the Evergreen Kingdom to hunt him down. His soul was almost shattered, but he actually didn't die. After he returned, he reorganized the world in a short period of time, ruling over the myriad devil islands, and becoming the myriad devil sovereign. In a single battle, he slew ancient emperors and took revenge on all the peak powers who participated in the siege, causing all of them to become part of the history of the immortal realms. After that, he joined forces with the reincarnation immortal emperor to kill the 4 Empyreans of the immortal Qianbian Gate, as well as the 3 ancient emperors of the Jiang clan, and the Empyreans of the Ying clan. This caused the immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan to disintegrate, and from then on, Azure Mystic was unified. The Heaven Empyrean was a true living legend. They were fortunate enough to live in this era, and became the witnesses of this legend. In addition, the Heaven Empyrean used the momentum of unifying the immortal realms to marry the woman he loved. Countless years later, this piece of history would only become a glorious legend that was passed down by countless people. As the witnesses, they naturally felt honored. The gazes of the crowd turned towards the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. There was an incomparably majestic ceremonial platform there, and on the stairs, peak stage immortal emperors could be seen standing there. Only characters like the Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the Dark North Immortal Emperor, as well as the relatives and friends of Qin Wentian and Qing'er, had the qualifications to ascend the stage. At this moment, in the seats beside the ceremonial platform, Chongqing the Great and the others all had smiles on their faces, appearing extremely happy. Qin Chuan, who was at the side, wasn't used to such a grand scene. Although he was the master of the Qin residence, he had never experienced such a grand scene before. Beside him was none other than Qing'er's father, an immortal emperor of an immortal empire. He had once personally witnessed how awe-inspiring the Dongxing Heaven Emperor was. Old Qin. At this moment, a supreme beauty walked over. Qin Chuan inclined his head and stared at her. She had an exquisite and perfect countenance, as well as an incomparably noble aura. Clearly, her status was extraordinary. Old Qin and Chongqing the Great will be seated together later. After the newlyweds arrive, they have to pay their respects to their elders. The Southern Phoenix Matriarch smiled. Right. Qin Chuan nodded. Fairy, are you really someone from the mortal world? Mo Feng, who was at the side, stared dumbfoundedly at the Southern Phoenix Matriarch. Such a transcendent aura and beauty made him feel that this was a little surreal. However, he didn't have any intention to offend her. He was merely sighing in admiration. The Southern Phoenix Matriarch smiled at Mo Feng. What do you think? I feel like I'm dreaming. Mo Feng laughed. This dream has just begun. The Southern Phoenix Matriarch laughed. After that, she walked over. Mou giggled as she stared at Mo Feng. Are you not afraid that I will tell sister-in-law about this when we return? Mo Shiryao, who was at the side, snorted lightly, but she also felt that this was a dream. Mou, what sort of character is brother-in-law exactly? There are so many people who don't belong to the mortal world here to support him. Mo Feng glanced at the surroundings. There were simply too many beauties. The maidens of the Jadestige Immortal Palace were all extremely beautiful. The palace mistress of the immortal palace was even more otherworldly. There was also Namhuang Yunxi of the Namhuang clan, and the other maidens. All of them were extremely beautiful. These were the maidens, and the auras they exuded were simply unimaginable. Many of them were like true emperors. How would I know? Mou mumbled, feeling curious in her heart. Chapter 1707. The atmosphere here was extremely lively. Not only were Qin Chuan and the others present, Qin Wentian and his foster father Yi Qingyun were also present. Yi Lingshuang was naturally present as well. Other than them, Qing'er's master fairy Qingmei was naturally here as well as Qin Wentian's teacher Mustang. Some of the elders from the Emperor Star Academy were also here. Qin Wentian's maternal grandfather, Qin Wentian's sexy senior apprentice sister Luo Huan, his good friends Ouyang Guangxing, Jiang Ting, Fatty Fan Lo, Xian Xian, Chu Mang, Bai Lu Yi and the others were all here. These old friends had never gathered together like this before. The reason why they could do this was because Qin Wentian himself personally descended to the particle world and brought all of them here. At the same time, the commotion in the immortal realms caused by this commotion. Wentian said that later on, all of you have to go up and cheer for him. The Southern Phoenix matriarch smiled as she spoke. From afar, the spectators all sighed in their hearts when they saw this scene. Qin Wentian actually had so many friends and relatives with low cultivation bases. The Southern Phoenix matriarch personally received them. In the entire immortal realms, only Qin Wentian had such a great deal of face. Among these people, there were many who hadn't even reached the immortal foundation realm. If they knew the identity of the person receiving them, it was unknown how they would feel. How beautiful, boss is too awesome. Fatty Fan Li's eyes widened as he stared at the Southern Phoenix matriarch and the beauties in the surroundings. There were simply too many beauties, and all of them were outstanding beauties. Behind the Southern Phoenix matriarch, Namhuang Yunxi, Namfeng Xinga and Namfeng Guhong were all extremely beautiful. I was wrong. Fatty let out a low-sounding scream. Xian Xian placed her hand on his waist, and the strength of her grip almost caused Fatty to cry. Do you still want to look? Xian Xian tilted her head and stared at Fan Le. Nope, my wife is the most beautiful. Fatty directly admitted defeat. The people around him all laughed. Naturally, Xian Xian was truly very beautiful. If not, Fatty wouldn't have acted so quickly. Fatty, is your senior sister not beautiful? Only to see Luo Huan walking over as she giggled. Fatty glanced at Luo Huan, who was as sexy as ever. Although he had some thoughts in his heart, when he thought of how this demoness treated him in the past, he couldn't help but shiver as he replied, Senior sister is as beautiful as my wife. Yo, Fatty knows how to talk now. Luo Huan giggled. Ouyang, have you ever thought that there would be a day when the Southern Phoenix matriarch would personally receive us? Fatty mumbled, changing the topic. I don't dare. Ouyang Guangxing shook his head and smiled. What he said was the truth. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to imagine such a thing. What status did the Southern Phoenix matriarch have? She was a lofty character that was unreachable normally. She was the leader of the Southern Phoenix clan. Let alone receiving them, given their cultivation bases, if it wasn't for today, they wouldn't even be able to see her. In the past, when they went to the Southern Phoenix clan, they couldn't even enter, let alone meet the Southern Phoenix matriarch. This is what it means by the impermanence of the world. On the way here, I made many friends and none of them believed me when I said that Wentian is my boss. Later on, I shall go up the stage and blind their eyes. Fatty Fan Le shamelessly laughed. Luo Huan giggled. Damn Fatty, you intentionally made friends with a bunch of scoundrels on the way here just so you can show off today. Fan Li's smile trembled as he replied. Senior sister is so smart, you've actually guessed it correctly. With just this little bit of scheming? Luo Huan disdainfully spoke. The eyes of those from the Qin clan and Mo clan flashed when they heard Fan Li's words. Mo Feng and Mo Yu involuntarily walked over and asked, Brother, did you say that that woman is the Southern Phoenix matriarch? You didn't know? Fan Le stared at Mo Feng and smiled. The Southern Phoenix matriarch of the Namhuang clan, a goddess-like character, one of the most dazzling beauties in the immortal realms. Mo Feng was dumbfounded. The people from the Mo clan and Qin clan all came from a particle world, and there were many things they didn't know about. They weren't like the people from the immortal realms who had long heard of Qin Wentian's legend. But now that they came here, no one had mentioned it to them before. Hence, Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't brag in front of them. Really? Mo weakly asked. Naturally. Other than the Southern Phoenix matriarch, there are many other supreme characters here as well. Look at those beautiful fairies over there. Do you see them? Fanla started to show off. I see them. Mo nodded. Those are the fairies from the Jadestige Immortal Palace. The one standing in the middle is the palace mistress of the Jadestige Immortal Palace. You simply don't dare to imagine how beautiful she is beneath that veil. She is the embodiment of perfection, and is also an unrivaled character in the immortal realms. Also over there, the princes and palace lords of the Shooting Sun Kingdom have all arrived. Do you see the Dark North Immortal Empire? That imposing middle-aged man is the Dark North Immortal Emperor, the king of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Also, that group of devil cultivators, do you see them? From their auras, the supreme characters of the myriad devil islands are all there. Fanla spoke as though he was listing his family treasures. Mo Feng and Mo were long stunned speechless. They couldn't even blink their eyes. Is this real? Are they dreaming? Fanla said that these people are all supreme characters at the peak of the immortal realms. All of them are here to attend their brother-in-law's wedding? Why does it sound so surreal? And those people, do you see them? Over there, right, those people outside. Fanla pointed to a location in the distance. Mo Feng and Mo turned their gazes in that direction, only to see a few majestic silhouettes exuding an extraordinary aura, as though they were all major characters. However, they couldn't even enter, and could only wait outside. Do you know who they are? Fanla started to keep them in suspense, asking even though he already knew the answer. No idea. Mo Feng naturally shook his head. Let me tell you. These people are all supreme powers at the peak of the immortal realms. The Thunder God Hall, Snowdrift Sacred Cult, Nibblesky Sacred Cult, etc. Also, the people at the front are none other than their hall lords and sect leaders. They are all powerful existences that can shake the entire immortal realms with just a wave of their hands, able to destroy cities with a wave of their hands, moving mountains and draining seas. They are the hegemons of an entire region, controlling countless territories in the immortal realms. Are they strong? Fanla boasted. Naturally, what he said couldn't be considered as boasting. What he said was the truth. Many people at the side who knew about this all laughed, but they didn't disturb him. Even such characters were waiting outside. They didn't even have the qualifications to enter. How glorious was this? How could they not feel a little bit of pride? It was just that they weren't as passionate as Fanla. Strong. Mo Feng replied in a dumbfounded manner. Glory? Fanla had a shameless smile on his face. So what if they are strong? Aren't they just waiting outside? Look at us. Fanla crossed his arms in front of his chest and laughed. Mo Feng and Mo both felt their minds going haywire. The people from the Qin clan and Mo clan were also in a daze. They were all thinking if this fatty was boasting or not. Why did it feel so surreal? If what he said was true, what status did Qin Wentian have to have such a lineup? Could it be that they were giving face to Qing'er's father, Chongqing the Great? Was Chongqing the Great so powerful? They weren't very clear about this, but they felt that there was a possibility. After all, they were all hegemons of the immortal realms. Where's elder sister? Mo asked. She suddenly wanted to ask her elder sister personally. Since brother-in-law brought us here today, he naturally wouldn't simply be here to watch the ceremony. Are you stupid? Mo Feng had a meaningful smile on his face. Mo blinked her beautiful eyes before she smiled as well. She hoped that she would be able to witness the magnificence of her elder sister. Such an occasion was simply too perfect. At the side, Mo Qingqing's master, the medicine sovereign, was also here. When he heard their conversation, a smile appeared on his face. Junior brother Qin is truly an unrivaled character. Lin Shui sighed in his heart. Right now, who in the world didn't know of Qin Wentian? Yiling Shuang smiled and nodded. For some reason, she felt a sour sensation in her nose as she felt an urge to cry. The emotions in her heart were indescribable with words. Qin Yao, who was standing behind Qin Chuan, was already crying. She believed in Fan Li's words. Although Fan Li knew how to boast, he wouldn't lie. In addition, everything she saw with her own eyes was so real. Right now, her younger brother who grew up together with her, had already stabilized his position in the immortal realms. Not only that, he stood at such a high position. Everyone in the world came to attend his wedding. Was this really because of Qing'er's father? She didn't believe it. If that was the case, how could they have such a status? A matriarch character personally came to receive them. What sort of treatment was this? If it was because of Qing'er's father, the Southern Phoenix matriarch should also be seated at the top, right? Only to see at this moment, the Southern Phoenix matriarch walked up the platform. She had a smile on her face, exuding magnificence through the generations. Today, as the Southern Phoenix matriarch, she played the role of the master of ceremonies, presiding over the wedding. The Southern Phoenix matriarch is presiding. The crowd in the surroundings all sighed with emotions in their hearts when they saw this scene. This was the wedding of the Heaven Empyrean. The Southern Phoenix matriarch was willing to preside over his wedding. In this world, there wouldn't be a second person who could enjoy such treatment. Play celestial music. The Southern Phoenix matriarch lightly spoke. In an instant, her voice rang out through the heavens and earth. As the sound of her voice faded, an incomparably resonant melody rang out, resounding through the heavens and earth. After that, boundless multicolored light flashed, transforming into the most beautiful colors. Blue wands and phoenixes appeared. Their voices were like the most beautiful music in the world, resounding through the heavens and earth. Harmonious cries of phoenixes. Countless people stared at the multicolored light in the sky, all of them stunned by this scene. What music was more suitable than the harmonious cries of phoenixes and phoenixes for a wedding? At this moment, an even more resplendent multicolored light flashed in the sky, seemingly capable of piercing through the heavens. Within the resplendent multicolored light, a Kirin saint beast could be seen galloping through the air. The wind and clouds changed color, demonic dragons danced, divine turtles appeared, phoenixes bathed in boundless flames. These were all auspicious saint beasts in the world. Their heads were inclined towards the sky as though they were welcoming something. Within the boundless radiance, Qin Wentian slowly appeared on a golden-winged great rock. That great rock was none other than Little Rascal. This scene was so beautiful that even the heavens and earth lost their color. He appeared in the most perfect form, descending upon the Evergreen Kingdom, preparing to marry his wife. He said before that he wanted to give Qing'er a grand wedding. At this instant, it was unknown how many maidens fell in love as they stared at that supreme figure. The Heaven Empyrean, Qin Wentian, was also the groom today. Chapter 1708. The Celestial Emperor's Wedding. The true dragon descended, the Qilin appeared, the divine turtle came, and the Luan and Phoenix cried together. This scene was too dazzling. The various clans of the monster race have arrived to contribute to the wedding of the Celestial Emperor. Everyone understood in their hearts that these were the demon emperors of the desolate mountains. Even if they weren't willing to submit to anyone and retreated to the desolate mountains, the situation in the immortal realms has already been established. The Heaven Empyrean unified the immortal realms, and on the day of his grand wedding, the demon races had no choice but to come and offer their congratulations. Also, they were willing to do so. The demons of the desolate mountains were also worried that Qin Wentian would point his sword at the desolate mountains. The immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan of the Heavenly Talisman realm was a lesson to be learned from. If Qin Wentian really sent troops to the desolate mountain range, it would be a calamity for the demons. Today they came here to express their stance. Even if they didn't say it explicitly, if the Heaven Empyrean really gave the order, they would definitely show up. Right now, the immortal region, the myriad devil islands, and the desolate 10,000 mountain range had officially merged into one, listening to the Heaven Empyrean's orders. Standing on the back of the golden-winged rock, The celestial emperor truly carried the momentum of unifying the world as he married the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom. The Southern Phoenix matriarch nodded to the many people seated below, after which, everyone walked up the ceremonial stage. Fanla held his head high as he walked up, exuding an air of arrogance. Ouyang Guangxing drew in a deep breath. He, who wasn't afraid of anything, was actually extremely nervous at this moment. Qin Wentian's appearance was so brilliant that they were all deeply shocked. This was the embodiment of Qin Wentian's status today. Qin Chuan's face was flushed and his eyes were red. He looked at Qin Wentian, surrounded by holy beasts. His steps were heavy as he walked up the dais. Next to him, Chongqing the Great patted him on the shoulder, and then nodded to Qin Chuan with a smile. Qin Chuan smiled back at Chongqing the Great, nodded, and continued to walk up the dais. Mustang, Luo Huan and those from the Emperor Star Academy all had smiles on their faces. Yi Qingyun, Yi Lingshuang, Lin Shuai and the others from the Battle Sword sect were all extremely agitated. The Medicine Sovereign, the people of the Mo residence, and the others all felt anticipation in their hearts. They didn't know if Qingqing would appear in this incomparably resplendent scene today. Qin Yao could no longer hold back her tears as they flowed down her cheeks. The instant Qin Wentian appeared, she had already started crying. Tears streamed down her cheeks as they walked up the ceremonial stage, staring in the direction of Qin Wentian. Present. The Southern Phoenix matriarch spoke. At this moment, the experts from the Thunder God Hall, Chaotic Sky Sect, Snowdrift Sage Hall, Nibblesky's Sacred Cult and the other peak powers who submitted to the Jiang clan and the immortal Qianbian Gate all walked out. Every one of them was a hegemon of a region, a sect leader or a hall lord. They held incomparably valuable gift boxes in their hands and carried their treasures as they walked towards the stage. At this moment, their hearts were incomparably heavy, but they had no choice but to do this. What they wanted to present were the ultimate treasures of their sects, the most precious cultivation arts and cultivation arts. These would be the betrothal gifts that Qin Wentian gave to the Evergreen Kingdom. The Heaven Empyrean had ordered them to present these treasures to the Chongqing the Great. However, who would dare to say a single word of objection? The victor was king and the loser was vilified. In the Battle of the Evergreen Kingdom, the Azure Mystic Immortal Sect, Qin Wentian, the Immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan. These three powers represented three different camps. Qin Wentian was victorious and unified the world. Even if Qin Wentian wanted to destroy them, no one would say anything. After all, they chose to stand on the opposing side of Qin Wentian. At the moment when Qin Wentian unified the world, they were all incomparably terrified. After that, the Heaven Empyrean's decree came. Although it was a humiliation, it also meant that they wouldn't be destroyed. Were they happy or worried about this? They didn't know what to say. They walked step by step towards the stairs below the ceremonial platform. A supreme immortal emperor from the Yaotai Immortal Palace presented the treasures to the people around Chongqing the Great. Chongqing the Great smiled and accepted it. All of this was what he ought to do. Back then when Qin Wentian was weak, he didn't stop Qin Wentian and Qing Er from being together. The two of them experienced life and death together with many trials and tribulations. Now that Qin Wentian finally unified the world and married Qing Er, he naturally would accept a mere betrothal gift. Everyone only had envy and blessings. They understood that what Chongqing the Great and the Evergreen Kingdom would obtain wasn't just this. Qin Wentian could give them even more. Many people from the other peak powers only hated the fact that there weren't any women in their peak powers that could capture Qin Wentian's heart. Among the crowd from the Snowdrift Sage Hall, Chu Qingyi stood among them. Her heart was filled with melancholy as tears flowed down her face. The people beside her stared at Chu Qingyi as they sighed in their hearts. Back then, they hated themselves for not listening to her words and befriending Qin Wentian. Su Qingyao was also among the crowd. Her parents smiled at her. Back then, why didn't you make the Heaven Empyrean fall in love with you? Su Qingyao rolled her eyes and glared at her parents. However, she felt a sense of disappointment in her heart. After her experiences in the City of Ancient Emperors, she already had a favorable impression of the Saber-Sword Immortal King. He was simply too outstanding, there was no one more dazzling than him. However, the hymn today was even more dazzling compared to the hymn in the city of ancient emperors. He ascended to the peak and was about to marry the woman he loved. Lin Xian squeezed to the front of the crowd. She had arrived very early, and when she stared at the figure in the air, her tears flowed unceasingly. She thought back to the past. In the particle world, the saber-sword immortal king protected her. At that time, she once thought that from now on, she would never have feelings for any other man. Xian. The handsome young man who came together with her called out. He felt some heartache in his heart as he spoke. I'm sorry, I can't give you such a wedding. He thought that Lin Xian was reminiscing about the past and was envious of evergreen Qing. Such a scene would surely cause any woman's heart to be moved. However, he couldn't help but to admit that he couldn't give her such a wedding. In this world other than Qin Wentian, who else could do so? I'm sorry, I can't agree to be together with you. Lin Xian suddenly spoke, her words causing the young man's heart to tremble. He stared fixedly at Lin Xian. Why? Because I have no way to lie to my heart. Lin Xian was still staring at the white-robed figure in the air. How good would it be if she hadn't met him in the past? If that was the case, she wouldn't be unable to accommodate anyone else. Just because you saw the magnificent scene today? The young man felt an incomparable sense of disappointment in his heart. So it turned out that she also loved vanity? He naturally understood that given Lin Xian's beauty, if she truly desired vanity, she would definitely have a chance to marry an extraordinary character. We've known each other for so long. Why do you think I'm such a person? Lin Xian shook her head, tears still streaming down her cheeks. Then why? The young man asked again. Lin Xian turned her gaze over, staring at the young man. She suddenly smiled, a smile so beautiful. She pointed to Qin Wentian in the air. If I told you that I was acquainted with him when he was still in the particle world, would you believe me? If I told you that I was once captured by someone and he stood in front of me, willing to use his life to exchange for mine, would you believe me? Ask me why. Because after I fell in love with him, my heart could no longer contain anyone else. The young man stared at the smile on Lin Xian's face. He stood there in a daze, feeling an intense pain in his heart. Was such a reason enough? Of course it was. Could it be that he felt that he was more outstanding than the Heaven Empyrean? He finally understood why Lin Xian wanted to come. Because the person she deeply loved in her heart was the Heaven Empyrean. How could she contain anyone else? Naturally, this included him. Turning around, he walked towards the crowd. His back view was incomparably lonely. As for Lin Xian, her tears grew even more sorrowful, causing the hearts of the people in the surroundings to shatter. Such a beauty, crying so much. Who could she fall in love with? Who wouldn't be moved? However, the person she fell in love with was the Heaven Empyrean. In this world, there was only a single Heaven Empyrean. At this moment, 7 colored auspicious clouds appeared above the ceremonial stage, as the cry of a phoenix drifted over. In the air, a flawlessly beautiful phoenix appeared. This was a true phoenix, surrounded by many other birds. On the back of the phoenix, Qing'er was clad in an incomparably resplendent robe, resembling the most beautiful wedding dress in the world. She had a phoenix crown on her head, resembling a goddess. Bathed in 7-colored light, she descended from the air and slowly landed on the stage. Her beautiful eyes flickered with a smile like the happiest smile in the world. Today, there were too many supreme beauties here, but not a single one was able to steal away her radiance. She was the female lead today. She was holy and beautiful, akin to a flawless goddess. Below, Chongqing the Great, Fairy Qingmei and the others stared at Qing'er. The eyes of the evergreen emperor were red, while Fairy Qingmei was tearing up. Mo Qingqing stood behind her, helping her with the wedding dress. Qing'er smiled at Qin Wentian. At this moment, she slowly turned and walked to Mo Qingqing's side, holding her hand. Elder sister Qing'er. Mo Qingqing started. Today was her elder sister Qing'er's wedding. Didn't they say that she was only here to help? Qingqing. Qing'er gently smiled. She pulled Mo Qingqing along as the two of them stood on the back of the phoenix. Although today was the day of her wedding, how could she enjoy such a scene alone? This should belong to them together. Right now the two of them were like sisters, even closer than sisters. Tears flowed from the corners of Mo Qingqing's eyes. She glared in the direction of Qin Wentian. Her beauty was so breathtaking that it was suffocating. Upon seeing these two supreme beauties, the people of the immortal realms couldn't help but sigh. Only the Heaven Empyrean was worthy of these two beauties. How could Qin Wentian not feel boundless gentleness in his heart? The golden-winged great rock let out a long cry as it flew forward. The dragon and phoenix protected him while the Kirin opened the path. Qin Wentian stood on auspicious clouds, walking towards the side of Qing'er and Qingcheng. After that, he stood in the middle of the two of them as he smiled warmly at them. At this moment, in this scene, there was no need to say anything. Qin Wentian held their hands and faced the world. He swore in his heart that in this lifetime, he would definitely protect the women he loved the most. At this instant, the gazes of countless people landed on the three of them. The Heaven Empyrean was announcing his love to the world. The people of the Lifefire Palace involuntarily thought back to the scene when Qin Wentian ascended to the position of chairman. However, what he could give to Yi Qinyu clearly couldn't be compared to these two beauties. After all, this was the main wife. Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean. At this moment, the experts of the Lifefire Palace who were guarding the two sides all brandished their divine weapons and pointed them at the sky. Beams of light shot up into the clouds, wanting to pierce through the sky. Congratulations to the Devil Sovereign. In the direction of the myriad Devil Islands, countless experts bowed. In fact, there were even many devil cultivators who knelt on one knee to show their respect. This was supreme respect. Right now, the Devil Sovereign wasn't merely the myriad Devil Sovereign, he was also the ruler of the world. Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean. In the surroundings, the experts from the various peak powers all bowed as well. At this moment, no matter what thoughts they had towards Qin Wentian in the past, there was only respect for him now. He unified the world, killed Empyreans, killed ancient emperors, and was unrivaled under the heavens. Qin Wentian's accomplishments caused the entire world to sigh in admiration. Regardless of friend or foe, they all had to show respect to him. At this instant, those experts who came here to watch the ceremony were also affected by the intense emotions. All of them bowed and shouted, "Congratulations to the world! Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean! Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean! Congratulations to the Heaven Empyrean!" Their voices continued to radiate out into the distance, spreading throughout the entire Heaven Empyrean city. With a glance, the countless people in Heaven Empyrean city all bowed and paid their respects. Chapter 1709. The echoes lingered in the sky, and the sound of shock lingered for a long time. This scene made everyone's blood boil. Everyone involuntarily fell into this atmosphere. At this moment, there was only supreme reverence and blessings in their hearts. There were no other distracting thoughts. In this world, there were only three beautiful silhouettes left. The Heaven Empyrean Qin Wentian, Evergreen Qing, and Mo Qingcheng. The people from the Qing clan and Mo clan felt great waves of shock in their hearts. They only felt their blood boiling as the blood in their bodies churned unceasingly. Everyone in the world was paying their respects to the Heaven Empyrean. How could they not feel their souls trembling? They knew that they would never be able to forget this scene for the rest of their lives. Staring at the white-robed figure in the air, tears flowed down Qin Chuan's old face. He who had experienced the vicissitudes of life couldn't control his tears at all. The child he brought up wasn't merely a hegemon in this particle world. At this moment, how could he not understand that even in this immortal realms, Qin Wentian was also an unrivaled character? No matter if they were immortals, kings, emperors, they all had to bow to him. At this moment, who couldn't tell that Qin Wentian's current status wasn't because of his identity as a princess of the Evergreen Kingdom? Everything was because of Qin Wentian, the Heaven Empyrean, Qin Wentian. Qin Yao sobbed loudly. Tears flowed down her face. In this situation, other than tears, there was nothing else. Luo Huan, Yi Lingshuang and the others all cried. Even Yi Qingyun couldn't help but cry. Fairy Qing Mei and the others, as well as those from the Mo clan, there were simply too many people who were crying. These were tears of excitement, tears of joy. Let alone them, even Fan Lo and the others who already knew of Qin Wentian's identity couldn't help but feel their eyes turning red when they felt the atmosphere. Fan Lo rubbed his eyes and mumbled, "This is such a joyous occasion. Is there a need to lie to my emotions? But I clearly didn't see any touching scenes. Why do I, fatty, feel like crying? Xian Xian, what do you think is happening?" "How would I know?" Xian Xian sobbed. When Fan Lo glanced at Xian Xian beside him, he only saw tears flowing down her cheeks unceasingly. She once heard that Qin Wentian was once hunted by the immortal realms. Half of the peak powers in the immortal realms surrounded the Evergreen Kingdom, wanting to take his life. Qing Er's hair turned white overnight, and Mo Qingqing's heart was like dead ashes. Now did they finally succeed? Even after countless years, this legend would probably still be passed down. No one would be willing to forget this romantic and heaven-defying legendary history. "Mou, why are you crying? Brother-in-law is so powerful. Shouldn't you be happy?" At this moment, Mo Feng finally understood what sort of status Qin Wentian had in the immortal realms. The Heaven Empyrean of the immortal realms, an unrivaled status. "Don't talk about me, aren't you the same?" Mou glared at Mo Feng. "Am I? I'm clearly smiling, okay?" Mo Feng laughed, wiping away the hot tears on his face. He was so happy that he was crying. No one would have thought that this scene would have such a powerful tear-jerking effect. Qin Wentian, Qing and Mo Qingqing's friends and relatives had no way to control the emotions in their hearts. In the Myriad Devil Islands camp, the veil of the incomparably esteemed priestess was wet. She inclined her head and stared at the white-robed figure as her heartbreaking voice rang out, "Wentian Gij." After calling out, she actually knelt on the ground and started crying. The people in the surroundings were all incomparably shocked. The Blood Priest, the Blood Empress, was actually crying like a little girl. If this was in normal times, it would simply be unimaginable. No one could understand the emotions in Bai Qing's heart. Although right now Qin Wentian was the focus of attention in the world, other than the people of the Qin clan, who else knew Wentian Gij earlier than her? They were childhood sweethearts and played together. Wentian Gij even guided her in cultivation until one day, everything changed. Their lives had a heaven-shaking, earth-toppling change. Right now, when she saw her Wentian Gij holding the hands of Qing and Qingqing, the people of the immortal realms came to congratulate him. Most probably no one would be more moved than her. She knew that she shouldn't cry on a joyous occasion, but at this moment, she only wanted to cry her heart out. She didn't want to think too much about anything else. Bai Wuya, Jun Mingchen and the others all stared unblinkingly at this scene. Bai Wuya felt pride in his heart. Jun Mingchen clenched his fists tightly, feeling incomparably glorious. He mumbled in a low voice, "Senior brother." After a very, very long time, the thunderous voices finally calmed down. In this boundlessly vast Heaven Empyrean city, it was so quiet that not a single sound could be heard. This was simply a miracle. Everyone in the city quietened down. Although there were many people who couldn't see the scene here, and couldn't see from such a far distance, they all heard the congratulatory voices earlier. They were all affected and started to congratulate Qin Wentian. When the voices stopped, everyone fell silent. They were only staring in the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Qin Wentian held the hands of Qing and Qingqing. He stared at the crowd and spoke. "Today is the day of my grand wedding. In Heaven Empyrean City, all the inns and inns will be filled with good wine and delicacies. Everything will be borne by me. Today, I will place 100 high-grade emperor-ranked weapons in interspatial rings. They will belong to whoever gets their hands on them. No one is allowed to snatch them away. Today, I will scatter emperor-ranked stones everywhere in Heaven Empyrean City. Everyone in the city can use them to comprehend their insights, but no one is allowed to keep them for themselves. They will be shared with everyone in Heaven Empyrean City." Qin Wentian's voice directly rang through the entire Heaven Empyrean City, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. This was the generosity of the Heaven Empyrean. 100 high-grade emperor-ranked weapons. This was simply unimaginable. The Heaven Empyrean would even scatter emperor-ranked stones everywhere in Heaven Empyrean City, allowing everyone to comprehend their insights and cultivate. When the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, boundless light suddenly radiated from him. Resplendent beams of spatial light shot towards all directions in Heaven Empyrean City, bringing with them interspatial rings and emperor stones. At this moment, everyone in Heaven Empyrean City only saw countless beams of spatial light descending from the sky, directly landing on the ground. Many people frenziedly tried to snatch the interspatial rings. Those who obtained them all had expressions of wild joy on their faces, but no one dared to snatch them. Everyone could sense the Heaven Empyrean's immortal sense enveloping the entire city. Who would dare to disobey the Heaven Empyrean's orders? All of a sudden, countless beams of light shot out from Heaven Empyrean City. The emperor stones of various attributes radiated resplendent light. In the air, astral light cascaded downwards, landing on the emperor stones. Hence, the entire Heaven Empyrean City seemed to have transformed into a city of starry space, bathing in boundless astral light. Before Qin Wentian, the experts from the various peak powers were still there. They didn't try to snatch the interspatial rings. Those subordinates of Qin Wentian weren't in a hurry at all. Since the Heaven Empyrean could bestow rewards to the world, how could they be left out? As for those who didn't belong to Qin Wentian, they only felt boundless regret in their hearts. A single wrong choice would cause them to lose everything. The atmosphere of the entire Heaven Empyrean City grew lively. Qin Wentian smiled as he watched everything. He held on to the hands of Qin and Mo Qingqing as he turned and walked towards Chongqing the Great and Qin Chuan. When he arrived before them, the three of them all bowed. He didn't bow to the heavens or the earth. He only bowed to his parents and elders. Chongqing the Great, Qin Chuan and the others hurriedly stood up, supporting the bodies of Qin Wentian and the two others. Although they were relatives, what status did Qin Wentian have now? He was someone everyone in the world worshipped, and had the title of Heaven Empyrean. How heavy was the weight of his bow? However, Qin Wentian didn't bother about him and continued to bow. This was something he ought to do. Wentian, from now onwards, my daughter will be completely handed over to you. Take good care of Qin. Chongqing the Great patted Qin Wentian's shoulder as he spoke. Right now, Qin Wentian had already surpassed him by too much and was more suitable to protect Qin, compared to him. Today they were officially married. From now onwards, wherever Qin Wentian went, Qin would follow. He wouldn't say anything more. They would live and die together. Father! Qin Wentian called out, no longer referring to his father as Heaven Empyrean. Chongqing the Great started. After that he started laughing uproariously. His eyes turned red as he nodded. Good, good. Qin Wentian stared at the familiar figures before him. These were all his close friends and family. Right now, they were all gathered here to attend his wedding. He was truly very happy. Wentian, congratulations. The Southern Phoenix matriarch walked over and congratulated him. Yaoyue, thank you for preparing everything. Qin Wentian smiled. Everything about the wedding was personally arranged by the Southern Phoenix matriarch. Even the demons who came to help were also arranged by her. Are you being polite with me? Namfeng Yaoyue smiled charmingly. Right now, she no longer treated herself as an elder and was much more natural in front of Qin Wentian. MHM, let's use today to settle the situation in the immortal realms. Qin Wentian smiled. He turned and stared at the people of the immortal realms. A moment later, the gazes of countless people landed on him. Each and every action of Qin Wentian was being watched by countless people. There's one more thing I want to announce to the world today. Now that Azure Mystic has been unified, there are many guests from the outside world. I know that some of them have arrived today, but I hope that the guests from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms would mind their own business and not cause trouble in Azure Mystic. If not, they would be my enemies. Since I'm the overlord of Azure Mystic, I naturally have to protect it, Qin Wentian said, and everyone listened quietly. In addition, now that the situation in the immortal realms has stabilized, Heaven Empyrean City will become the capital of Azure Mystic. The myriad Devil Islands will be the same as before, governed by the Devil Mountain. As for the desolate 10,000 mountain range, I won't interfere. The demonic races can enter the immortal realms, but they have to abide by the rules and not wreak havoc, or their entire race will be annihilated. As for the immortal realms, the eastern region will be governed by the Evergreen Kingdom. The southern region will be governed by GD and her sect. The western region will be governed by the Namhuang clan. The northern region will be governed by the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Jadestige Immortal Palace and 100 Refinements sect. The central region will be governed by the Shooting Sun Kingdom and Wenqin Temple. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, countless people were stunned. They all understood that Qin Wentian's words would determine the future situation of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. These powers were designated as the legitimate hegemonic powers, helping the Heaven Empyrean to govern the world. One could very well imagine that these powers would soon welcome a glorious page in their history. Chapter 1710. The Grand Wedding of the Heaven Empyrean was a matter that attracted the attention of the entire world. Today the entire world celebrated. The atmosphere in Heaven Empyrean City was incomparably frenzied. There were 100 people who obtained peak-stage Emperor-ranked weapons, and were incomparably excited. For those who didn't obtain any weapons, they were all comprehending the astral light in Heaven Empyrean City. That was the radiance of the Emperor-ranked stones. It could allow them to comprehend and cultivate. Similarly, on this day, the structure of Azure Mystic was set. The orthodox powers were divided, and these major powers were all located in Heaven Empyrean City. Hence, Heaven Empyrean City would become the center of Azure Mystic. The news of this soon circulated out to all corners of the immortal realms. Even after countless years, the grand wedding of the Heaven Empyrean was still discussed enthusiastically by everyone. And for those who had personally witnessed this legendary event, they would always be incomparably excited every time they mentioned it. Their eyes were filled with the flames of passion. Today, Qin Wentian welcomed the most perfect day of his life. Many friends and family gathered around him. Under the night sky, he shared a pillow with his 2 wives, but he didn't have any distracting thoughts. He only hugged Qing and Qingqing, enjoying this rare moment. He discovered that after Qing and Qingqing fell asleep, there were traces of tears at the corners of their eyes. As for the Qin residents, Mo residents and the other close friends of Qin Wentian, they couldn't sleep today. This grand wedding couldn't be erased from their minds. Scenes of the people of the world bowing and congratulating Qin Wentian would appear in their minds. That scene was deeply imprinted in the depths of their souls. Only after several days did the commotion gradually die down. However, Heaven Empyrean City was still incomparably lively and bustling. Not only did the number of people not decrease, it actually increased instead. Because many experts who didn't make it in time had all arrived, and there were also those who heard that there were Emperor-ranked stones in Heaven Empyrean City. This caused Qin Wentian's subordinates to have no choice but to give the order to control the flow of people entering Heaven Empyrean City. If this continued, the countless wide streets in Heaven Empyrean City would become unusable. During these few days, Qin Wentian didn't do anything. He didn't cultivate and only accompanied his family and friends, chatting with them. His elder sister Qin Yao and Yiling Shuang were always by his side, while his senior sister Luo Huan would tease him from time to time. This caused Qin Wentian to feel a rare sense of joy, as though he had returned to the past. Fatty Fanlu was as shameless as ever, looking for beauties everywhere he went. Every time he was caught by Xian Xian, he would beg for mercy and Xian Xian would forgive him. Mo Feng and Mo Yu, the 2 little fellows, kept pestering Qin Wentian, asking Qin Wentian to guide them in their cultivation. However, given their current cultivation bases, why would they need Qin Wentian to personally guide them? Lin Xian was also invited into the Heaven Empyrean Palace specially constructed for Qin Wentian. However, she only spoke a few words with Qin Wentian before she left. She didn't cry, she only had a smile on her face that was filled with blessings. Qin Chuan, Mo Qingqing's father and the other elders naturally had smiles on their faces. They were so happy that they couldn't conceal their grins. However, Qin Wentian also encountered a troublesome matter. Qin Chuan and the other elders actually wanted to hug their grandchildren. Qin Wentian felt his head swelling. The path of cultivation was extremely long, and the path of cultivation was extremely difficult. How would he dare to give birth so easily? He had always been using some underhanded methods, not letting others know about it. This caused his senior apprentice sister Luo Huan to tease him about this matter, causing Qin Wentian to feel his head swelling. Everything was so beautiful. Sometimes, Qin Wentian even thought that if he could continue living his life like this, with his family by his side and beauties by his side, wouldn't that be a kind of perfection? However, the path of cultivation was extremely long. If one didn't step into the peak of the martial path, it would be hard for one to achieve true perfection. In the world of cultivation, one's life was already out of one's control. If it wasn't for the fact that he had the strength he had today, and was able to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, would there be such a happy reunion today? Back then he had already died once. He naturally understood this logic. If he didn't continue forward, there would be danger waiting for him ahead. In addition, there was still one thing he had yet to accomplish. This was something he had always hidden in the depths of his heart. He still had to bear the burden of a blood feud. Today, in the Heaven Empyrean Palace, Qin Wentian gathered the Chongqing the Great, GD, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch, the Dark North Immortal Emperor and the others. These people controlled the entire immortal realms. They were the true masters of the immortal realms. For the next period of time, all of you can choose the core members of your respective clans or sects to come to the Heaven Empyrean Palace. My current cultivation base is slightly higher than all of you, and I can give you some guidance. Also, in addition to the treasures I have on me, I can help all of you in your cultivation. Naturally, the people I choose must be absolutely trustworthy. For Azure Mystic to have its current situation, all of you have contributed to it. I don't hope that in the future, your descendants would want to overthrow the current peaceful situation. Qin Wentian spoke. Everyone present nodded. Some of them had some grudges in their hearts when they submitted to Qin Wentian back then. After all, the name wasn't good. They were originally hegemons of a region, yet they had to listen to the orders of others. But now, they discovered that there was nothing wrong with that. Their authority was much greater than before. They had become the true hegemon of the immortal realms. Now that Azure Mystic was unified, Qin Wentian wouldn't ask them to do anything. Even when they dealt with the immortal Qianbian Gate and the Jiang clan, Qin Wentian acted alone. They didn't even have to do anything, and could be said to be enjoying the fruits of Qin Wentian's labor. Right now, Qin Wentian wanted to help them in their cultivation. The Shooting Sun Kingdom, Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, and the other peak powers were all silently sighing at the choice they made back then. There's one more thing. Right now, more and more experts from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms are coming to Azure Mystic. I'm a little worried. After this matter is concluded, I will leave Azure Mystic. At that time, the immortal realms will have to depend on everyone. Naturally, if there's anyone who is willing to roam the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, you can come with me. This is up to you all to make your own decision. Qin Wentian continued. He treated everyone like this. He wouldn't make a choice for them. Everything would be up to them to choose the path they want to walk. Naturally, this matter isn't urgent. Everyone can think about it carefully. If anyone wishes to leave, you have to make sure to make the necessary arrangements before you leave. Qin Wentian spoke. Many people here felt their hearts stirring. They have already reached the end of their cultivation here, and they have witnessed extraordinary strength. Could it be that they didn't feel envy and yearn for it? Qin Wentian returned from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, and became so powerful. Could it be that they didn't have any thoughts about it? The powerful Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was the highest realm among the 33 immortal realms. Experts were as common as clouds, and immortal emperors could be found everywhere. Ancient emperors might only appear once every 10,000 years, but there were countless of them in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Just in Azure Mystic alone, many of them have died recently. Everyone, is there anything else? Qin Wentian asked. Benefactor Qin, this poor monk wishes to speak with Benefactor alone. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple spoke. Qin Wentian was somewhat taken aback. Sure, I will listen to Reverend's guidance. The others stood up and bade farewell, leaving behind only Qin Wentian and the Reverend from Wenxin Temple, as well as Changqing the Great. Changqing, do you want to speak or should I? The Reverend from Wenxin Temple asked. This matter isn't very glorious, let me speak instead. Changqing the Great smiled. Qin Wentian, there's no need for me to speak too much about the great nirvana immortal art, right? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. He stared in bewilderment at Changqing the Great and the Reverend from Wenxin Temple. He didn't expect that the Reverend from Wenxin Temple would actually stay behind for this matter. This great nirvana immortal art originated from Wenxin Temple. However, the method I obtained wasn't very glorious. Luckily, Reverend didn't pursue the matter. Changqing the Great spoke. The great nirvana immortal art actually originated from Wenxin Temple? Qin Wentian felt shock in his heart. Great nirvana, nirvanic rebirth creating an avatar. The Evergreen Kingdom truly didn't have such a technique. In truth, my Wenxin Temple also has an extremely ancient inheritance. According to the records in our temple, we are a Buddhist sect that originated from the ancient Azure mystic immortal realms. This great nirvana immortal art can be traced back to ancient Azure mystic. When cultivators of the Buddhist sect comprehend the Tao, their avatars would allow them to experience the different sceneries of the world. If not, if they really went into closed-door seclusion, it would be hard for them to achieve enlightenment. I'm ashamed to say this. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple pressed his palms together as he spoke. Qin Wentian pondered for a moment before he understood the meaning of the Reverend's words. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple mostly cultivated in asceticism and didn't enter the secular world to cultivate. However, they had avatars that allowed them to experience everything in the world, love and hate, even giving birth to children. Most probably, there were many things that went against the principles of the Buddhist sect. This was the reason why the Reverend from Wenxin Temple said that he was ashamed. Qin Wentian stared at the Reverend in front of him. Seems like the Reverend had avatars. This was truly interesting. Naturally, the scripture vault of Wenxin Temple is a place where cultivation arts are not divulged to outsiders. The great nirvana immortal art is also not widely known by many. In Wenxin Temple, there are only a few who have the qualifications to cultivate it. However, there are also scum in the temple. There was once a disciple of my senior brother who had extremely high talent in the Buddhist path, but his character wasn't good. We persuaded him to leave the temple, but he actually snuck into the scripture vault to steal the cultivation art. Also, he originated from a major power and caused quite a commotion back then. Many people were killed in the commotion, and after Changqing received the news, he actually interfered and participated in the theft of the treasures. In the end, he was discovered by our temple. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple slowly spoke. Changqing the Great had a bitter smile on his face. For this matter, he wasn't kind at all. In that case, why did the great nirvana immortal art end up in my hands? Qin Wentian asked. That wasn't the original copy. As for why it ended up in your hands, the Reverend from Wenxin Temple smiled and said, Remember what I said last time? Benefactor Qin and our temple are fated. This fate was forged many years ago. Reverend, what do you mean by that? Qin Wentian was even more confused as he opened his mouth to ask. This was the treasure of the temple, and it was impossible for it to be divulged to outsiders. Wenxin Temple wouldn't even allow Changqing the Great to cultivate it. How did it end up in his hands? Benefactor Yuanfeng, you and our temple are fated. You and Benefactor Yuanfeng are very similar. The Reverend stood up and clasped his hands together. He bowed to Qin Wentian and then turned to leave. Qin Wentian was shocked. Looking at the departing silhouette of the Reverend from Wenxin Temple, he asked, Reverend, can you stay for a moment? If Benefactor Qin is free, you can come to Wenxin Temple for a visit. There are some records of the secrets of Qing Xian in the ancient books of Wenxin Temple. I won't talk about it in detail here. Farewell. The Reverend from Wenxin Temple said, and left immediately. Qin Wentian didn't expect there to be such a story behind it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.